All right, we'll call to order the June 15th meeting of the Conservation Commission. Pursuant to open meeting law, I just want to advise everybody that this meeting is being recorded and televised on Lunenburg Public Access. We'll start with public comment.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin the public comment portion, I just want to remind everybody behind me and in front of me that in case of emergency, fire, or et cetera, we have two means of egress from the building. One would be the way you came in, directly to my right. The second way would be the fire escape right out here. That's it.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. And just a public comment, we'll start. I'll just apologize before we get started. This is our first televised meeting up here at the Town Hall, so we're new at this. So we're just trying to get the seating and the arrangement down. So if you do have any comments afterwards, please let us know.
Okay.
All right, any comment from the commission?
Yeah, if you could, reports or just general comments?
Just general public comment.
I'll wait till the end.
Okay. Any comment from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll call our first hearing to order pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Gary Spint for the addition of sand to an existing beach in the buffer zone at 7 Ruth Street on Lake Shirley. Would you folks like to come down? With our arrangement, the applicants will sit at that end of the table and just start presenting.
If I get another chair.
Sure. Yep.
We have our granddaughter this evening, so.
All right, and if you would like to explain the application, what you're looking to do.
We recently purchased the home, and all we wanted to do was just add a little additional sand to the existing beach. We have since learned that the beach was not a legal beach, which was not disclosed to us at the time that we purchased the home. So I guess our purpose is twofold tonight. One, to declare that the beach is legal because they planted the bushes the way it was suggested. And the second would be to request permission to add, a thin layer of additional sand to the existing beach.
Okay. And do you have a diagram or any pictures of the area?
We
submitted those.
We submitted those.
Okay.
It does not run the entire length of our property on the lakefront. It's about 1/3 of the space. The other 2/3 are all natural vegetation and everything that we have no intention of touching or doing anything with.
Matt, did you happen to pull out the previous file on this property? Showing the
I didn't bring it
violation
with
of what
me.
needed to be done?
I didn't
Okay.
bring it with me, but I mean, I can recite the violation basically by heart because I was involved in it.
Okay.
And I know we did review it with the applicants on site, showed them exactly what was in violation, meaning the large retaining wall and where the beach area was and why it wasn't supposed to be there in the first place, and what our initial remedial action was. And as I outlined in my report, the fact that we had to do a second remedial action because the owner, after a while, decided we weren't around anymore and ripped everything out and tried to reestablish the beach.
Okay.
So, I mean, they are aware of where it does go. And were you out on site on Ruth Street at the time?
I can say that I was, Mr. Chairman. By the way, a beautiful home.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
piece of property.
Thank you.
Well kept. I mean, honestly, you have a slice of heaven right there.
Yes,
I
we do.
really
Yes.
Excuse me, you have to use a microphone.
Oh,
Folks at home can't hear you.
slice of heaven. Okay, beautiful. I believe it's been the practice in town to basically allow residents to add sand to replace that which is washed away, blown away. And currently, right now, we ask that they just not place the sand close to the water such that it would be washed in, and we would start having, we're fighting enough in terms of stormwater and trying to keep, material from floating into the lake. So I believe that having looked at it, and if the residents would be agreeable to this, is that we could go down a couple different paths. First of all, I would be in favor of allowing them to resand that beach. It's a beautiful area. But we also had a chance to talk about other options, as it were, and just looking at how do we keep the sand, not just in this home, but all the others in the future when they go to resand. How could we stop that process of the water, the sand working its way in the water and eventually filling in that particular area? And one of the thoughts that came up would be we employ the same thing we used with the Unitil properties with regard to protecting the wetland and the draw-through, asking that basically some sort of a strip of grass be placed between the water and where the sand was going to be dumped. So if you put a 4 or 6 foot strip of grass right at the water's edge, allow people to use the sand, building sand castles and all that, and allowing that to happen, that we could actually achieve our desired objective in terms of allowing the resident to enjoy the property as well as protecting the habitat itself. So if this board would consider it, and if the applicants would consider it, I would think a 6 foot strip would be advisable. I want to also point out that it is not in our regulations right now. So therefore, we really wouldn't be able to try to impose that, but I think it's worthy of a discussion in terms of, would the residents be willing to do something like that?
Challenge is it's only a 15-foot
Right.
wide section.
Yeah.
It's 60 feet.
60 feet long.
60 feet long, but it's only 15 feet wide, of which now there's about 4 feet of bushes. So that doesn't leave us a whole lot of actual sand area.
Right.
So if you put in a 6 foot section of sand, of grass, we're gonna
Yeah,
have.
well, I understand, maybe 3
sand.
feet or something, just some sort of a buffer. Because remember, you still can't put the sand right
In the
into the
water.
water, right in the water. So this would be able to provide a medium for, if we picked up a lot of rain, your sand would be captured by the grass itself. And therefore, we'd protect the lake, and you could put all the sand you want there. Maybe a 3 foot strip. You'd be more of an expert on it.
Unfortunately, and I do feel that, unfortunately, you should go back to the Realtor and the people you bought it from, because this was a previous violation. The wall was put there illegally, and as part of the remediation of putting the wall there illegally, we made them remove the beach that they had made and vegetate from the wall back down to the water, as that was a condition when they put the wall in. So myself, unfortunately, there was no beach there prior. We made them remediate so that the beach was not there, and it was supposed to be seeded and vegetated right down to the water's edge. So given the smallness of the spot, I'm not too sure of, how we would put a small beach in there without having it further encroach back into the illegal and violation that it was in originally. So, I do feel, unfortunately, if you were misled, but myself, where the violation was pretty substantial at the time, and we did make the sellers just last year remediate it because they had gone through over time and gotten rid of all the plants and put a beach back in there.
They did replant the plants that are growing.
Yep, yeah, they were supposed to replant, and then they were supposed to seed the basin area from the wall to the edge of the water. So,
Okay. Yeah, because we were never told any of that.
Yeah,
So if we go back to the seller, what would we'd have to sue them to?
yeah,
I don't want to go through
Really?
that.
they're certainly open to other commissioners with other opinions,
There's so many beaches
but,
on this lake, I can't,
yeah.
like Gary said, it's only a third of our property. The rest of it is all natural vegetation. So it's a very small section of which, we're asking for. And, correct.
Yeah.
And we've done everything right. We've applied for we paid the $65. We are honest. We just want some sand for our grandkids
Yeah.
to
Yeah, I'm certainly open to other,
play in.
And would
Other
some sort
comments?
of a compromise Mr. Chairman, where we asked that, okay, we put the grass in up to the water, up to 5 feet, up to beyond 5 feet beyond the edge, and allow them to just continue to use sand for the rest of it, so their daughter would have a play-by.
I mean, unfortunately, myself, where it was already a documented violation, I would have a harder time allowing the condition that was in violation that we needed remediated to go back to the violation that it was.
I do understand that
Myself,
dilemma.
unfortunately.
What if you could add a sandbox on top of a grassed area? So you get your sand, but it's not part of the environment or
Well, it's,
as much.
sandbox, is it going to be a plastic bottom? Is that going to become impervious?
Yeah.
I mean, you've always got, this is an unfortunate
We
thing.
purchased the house because it's a beautiful home on a wonderful lake. We
Yeah.
can have a sandbox in our city and, it's, in a little city environment, not in a beautiful lake environment where children can explore and learn about the sand and the water and the mud and there's no other way to explain the learning that goes on with that.
Do you have
Mr.
any?
Chairman, when
Yes.
we issued the order for the when we issued the remediation for the previous owner, was it outlined specifically that they had to seed, but did they have to loam and seed?
Yes.
They did, so they haven't brought any loam in at this point.
For the owner, the owner just previous to
The
these.
previous owner.
We gave them the entire remediation plan that was passed back in 2002, Matt?
Yes.
Yep, so he had the exact plan that was issued by the commission back when the violation was first noticed.
In 2002?
Yes, we
And
gave,
it came before this commission in,
2002 was the original violation, or thereabouts. We noticed it on a site walk in the summer of 2015, and sent the owner a notice that the violation had come back in
and
front
he
of the
came
wall.
before us.
He came
said
before us, we gave him the
They
exact...
did plant some blueberries, and if I recall.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a number of
Yeah,
different.
yeah, they have replanted the plant material, and they were supposed to seed the ground as well.
Okay.
But we gave them exactly the remediation plan that we had passed in 2002. So it was back to the plant material and the grass.
Now,
Okay.
didn't we clear the,
Did we sign off on it?
I think we
Generally, on remediations, we would give it at least 1 year to make sure that all the plant material
Oh, is it?
takes.
So
So
we
I
haven't
don't
signed
think
off
we've
on
been
it?
back out to sign back off on it.
because I thought we did
have you, Matt?
something when he asked.
I don't recall.
I recall going out, and I think Matt checked the initial plantings and said they'd look good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, the initial
Right.
plan things look fine.
Yeah.
Nothing was complete at that
Right.
point, and apparently they never did.
Right.
There's the one thing we had noticed when we went and visited the house next door when they applied for the deck.
So would you make every house on the lake then put a strip of grass on their beach?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, as I outlined on the site visit to you, that we generally don't allow new beaches, and if we allow new beach areas, they're usually grass, not sand. Anybody that has an existing legal beach is allowed to maintain their beach, they're not allowed to expand them. Because they're grandfathered, essentially.
This is a rock and a hard spot.
I'm open to other suggestions.
We don't want to cross that line. I agree.
Yeah, can we at minimum give them the remediation plan so that they have the documentation? That, I don't know if the remediation plans need to be filed on the deed. They don't.
The original remediation most likely would have been registered on the deed.
Yeah. So
Because they would have, was part of their notice, I believe, without reviewing it, it was
Yeah.
probably part of their original notice of intent.
No, it was an enforcement order.
Was it an enforcement order afterwards?
Enforcement order.
enforcement orders don't show up on the deeds.
Right.
Well,
Go ahead.
it's our purpose. We want to make sure that everything we do is legal.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, if we sell a property, we obviously don't want to have something hang it up. So we want to make sure that whatever is done here is done with the proper paperwork, with the proper commission's blessing, whatever you want to call it, the proper legality of it and everything else. We are willing to compromise. From our perspective, it's a little bit unfair to all of a sudden find out that, okay, we're told that we don't have we have an illegal beach, and so therefore we're not able to have anything there. That's a disappointment. We can live with it. There's a lot of other disappointments in this life that are a lot worse than this one. But if there was some way that, the gentleman suggested a compromise, if there was some way we could do that and stay within the legal guidelines and everything else, that would be, we could then pass on to any subsequent owners, that would be something that would be a positive thing from our point of view.
I mean, I suppose myself, if you were to put a temporary, like Brad had mentioned, perhaps a sandbox off the edge of the water a little bit to have some sand in the area, we can I myself wouldn't have a problem with that, to help you with some sand, but again, myself, and I'm not speaking for the commission, I'm speaking for myself, where it was a violation and a well-documented violation at the time, I would have a hard time trying to deviate from the remediation that was put in place for that. So, and I can make sure that Matt gets you the information on the violation or remediation.
This is like 12 years ago. This has been going on for, what did you say, since
Oh, no, it was completed, it was originally completed, and then the original owner sold the site, the new owner came in, took out all the vegetation and made a beach, which again, like the agent said, we don't allow new beaches. It was noticed on a site walk that had occurred. The owner that apparently you have bought it from was notified that the beach was illegal. We sent him he came in, we gave him the remediation plans, and he was in the process of putting it back to the way it was supposed to be. But unfortunately,
When you say lawn down to the beach, are you talking about grass? Can it be cut? Can it be, or does it have to be, does it have to, I mean, the rest of the area is kind of grown up, and we want to leave it that way, There's some grass that's up quite high in the rocks and stuff. And we have no
I believe it was a wetland mix that was specified, which tends to be it's not a large meadow mix, it tends to be shorter sedges and wetland plants that would grow in there.
Okay.
And it would stop any erosion.
You can't run like a lawnmower through there or something?
Really not, you wouldn't have to, because they're all shorter plants that are in there.
Even still, if you did, it wouldn't do anything to that particular style of grass. They're very hardy, especially in mowed farms.
Yep.
So, but now that you mention it, I do remember them mentioning like a meadow grass, or like a variety of spike brush that doesn't get too high.
Yeah.
So regular lawn grass would not work.
No, it probably wouldn't grow in the area anyways, in the wet soil.
Then, if they loomed it, then it would, right?
What is loam?
No, it would still be in a wetland area.
I don't even know. What
There's a
is,
dark soil that goes underneath the grass, topsoil.
okay.
Topsoil, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you guys what you do. The other thing you could consider is maybe a fescue mix, like New England Wetland Plants put out. The nice thing about it is I've used it in stabilization projects on rare species habitat. Thing about fescue is even the mowed fescues make an excellent food source for like turtles and other reptilian life. You could consider that if you wanted to. It's totally up to you guys.
Can I make a suggestion, please?
Sure. Microphone, sorry.
I'm sorry.
How about if, in the spirit of compromise, which I heard here, how about, the beach is 60 feet wide, we'd be willing to cut that in half, 30 feet, and have a 30-foot section of beach next to where the dock is, and in exchange, we can put in a barrier of some type or something to make it look nice to separate, but then the other, create an additional 30 feet then of natural grass and everything.
Area.
The other thing I would suggest too, seeing as we have a history on this that's unfair to the applicants but negative to the property, if the commission does come to some type of arrangement, perhaps we could do it as a document that I would notarize that the applicants would sign, like an agreement, and we record it on the deed as a perpetual condition, or as a, as a perpetual document. That way, we always have something to refer to, and if they sell the property, whoever subsequently buys the property would automatically be notified.
That would be
Great idea.
totally agreeable to us.
I mean, obviously, I can see where, the history on this is pretty negative, and it's not your fault. I mean, you guys didn't do the deed. The previous owner did it twice, and because of, what he did, the unfairness isn't actually from this board, it was from the previous owner. So I can understand you feeling it's unfair, but it wasn't dealt from us. We were dealing square with the owner. The previous owner was the one that deliberately kept doing the violation. So, I mean, I can see, both sides of the argument.
One thought I just had is, all around this area, the existing grass surrounding the beach and the adjacent properties tends not to be a native wetland species. It tend to be manicured lawn. So you're not seeing a lot of areas where wetland creatures can go and have a habitat. One of my thoughts is, we don't want a beach like that because, one, it can put sediment into the lake. What about doing like a break of stones or boulders along the edge of the beach, along the water line? That would prevent erosion. We keep all the plantings of the bushes and things like that. It prevents erosion. And then we have the added benefit that it gives places for critters, salamanders, and things like that to go. Would anybody be open to something like that? And then people can step over it and still get the use of the lake, but it doesn't look, it's not revegetating the whole thing. I don't know how anyone feels about a solution like that, but.
Yeah. We are allowed to do a little horse trading within, in terms of exchange for a potential.
You're allowed to suggest it.
Yes, yeah.
You're allowed to suggest it, yes.
And in accordance, I'm just trying to find the exact section. I kind of I do like the idea of a compromise. I do like the fact that they're willing to take half their beach area and turn it into a habitat that will
Back up a
support.
second. We're taking half the habitat and give them half the beach.
Right,
I mean,
right, half of it.
they're kind of asking for they're asking for beach where technically there should be no beach.
Right.
It is a
There-
violation. It's
nowhere
not
should
supposed
there
to
be a beach,
there. So
but we have a
anything that
beach.
we do will be providing a new beach where no beach should be. So we need to keep that in mind. And it sounds like there's some agreement here that we definitely don't want the beach going up to the edge of the water.
Right.
So I think to compromise to try to get a beach within a confined space. If we had a 5 by 10 or try to get something that's contained that won't encroach and 5 years down the road we're out there and
We got beach
we got
again.
beach
Yeah, beach
everywhere
again.
again, yes.
That's no
Yeah,
problem.
which is really what we're trying to stop, so.
So,
My
what's the-
fear is anything that gets put in there, and again, it's unfortunate that you're in the circumstance from the previous owner and the seller, but we definitely need to make sure that we don't get the encroachment back that we got.
So we're thinking, I'm just thinking out here, we're thinking that half that area would be planted with all sorts of blueberry bushes, returned back to its previous vegetated state, earlier.
Yeah, most of it has been,
1990.
yes,
Yeah.
most of it has been revegetated.
And then we're talking about the other half potentially being grass with some sort of a small barrier, and such that they can enjoy that area. They can, the grandkids can walk across the grass, climb over a couple small rocks, and enjoy the lake. Is that what we're?
It makes it a little hard for little feet to.
Oh, I understand. I've got little feet too. Yeah.
Very difficult for little toddlers and things.
Yeah.
To access that and to launch kayaks and all kinds of things, so. If, I think what Gary had in mind was, a split of half of it being natural vegetation and the other half being, don't call it a beach, call it a sand area, or call it a something else.
Yes, sir, name and address?
Chair, Greg Bittner, 129 Pleasant Street. I guess I understand what they're saying. Would someone be allowed to put, and back to Jack's comment about the sandbox, would they be allowed to put like a volleyball court with a restrained edge? And how far along from the water would it have to be to not be considered a beach?
30-foot,
Not
no
without a
disturbance.
variance, No.
Not without a
Or
variance?
not without a variance, no. Within the 30-foot, this is supposed to be a vegetated zone within 30 feet of the water, and they're looking to change it from a vegetated zone to a sanded zone, so.
Right, and
yeah.
would you put a maximum on the square footage that they would have that would be allowed as sandable or sandable?
If it was in front of us, yeah, I mean, if it was in front of us, we'd have to see what the application would be and discuss it.
Yeah.
Because I think if you came to an agreement with the applicant
Yeah.
on the largest square footage area that was acceptable to the commission, then you could work around the
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the edge.
But
and how it was-
then my fear is, now we've made this decision, and the next person that wants a new beach, and and we can't, I mean, I don't think legally we can
Yeah.
give the application for a new beach. Is that correct?
The only thing we could allow would be a grassed area in an area that was previously disturbed.
Right.
So we cannot, technically, we can't allow the beach anyways. if
So,
it's-
Mr. Chairman, prior to the establishment of the retaining wall and the beach, what was the condition of the property? Was it sloped similar
I
to the
believe it was
adjacent
sloped
lawn?
similar
It was
to it
sloped
is.
But it was manicured lawn?
It was manicured lawn, but it was, well, actually, it wasn't even manicured lawn, it was a semi-wooded area, and what happened,
They took trees
happened
and-
was, when he was developing the backyard,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the existing backyard now, it's actually a pretty decent slope going
Mm-hmm.
down. It would be pretty hard to establish anything like a beach or anything like that there.
Mm-hmm.
So what he did was, the prior owner took what he considered the cheap way out, cut into the hillside, put in a giant retaining wall so he could make a level area to put in a beach that wasn't on, we didn't allow on his plans. He was supposed to maintain, under his original file, a vegetated buffer there.
You within, the problem is you're within 30 feet, and you are an embankment, and, you know, would we ever approve a volleyball court on the embankment? No. I wouldn't have, within 30 feet.
Well, I'm of the opinion that if we can't come to a compromise that's reasonable to most of the members, then we just need to stick with the original remediation. As unfortunate as it is for the owners, to me, it doesn't appear that we're coming to any sort of agreement here.
I don't think we have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't really think we do. I wish we could help, but unfortunately, the conditions were existing prior to the house being built and the violations and,
Well, how come there was no enforcement? Everybody's great at making rules, but there was no enforcement.
Actually, there was
There was.
enforcement.
He
We
had-
enforced on it twice. We can't be everywhere at the same
But when a
time.
house sells, you would think that this commission would,
That's the
Step in.
original reason why we
Well,
did step in.
yes, but we can't be involved in every real estate transaction. It is the responsibility of the Realtor and the previous owner, the seller, to provide to you any and all violations, information, or anything that they know could be wrong with the house. The seller that you purchased it from was fully aware of the violation and had started to remediate it. Unfortunately, we can't sign off on the remediation until such time as all the plant material has been established, which is generally between 1 and 2 years. But it's the responsibility of the seller to provide the buyer with any and all information.
And the fact that he didn't disclose this when you purchased the property is pretty unfair.
Yeah, because he was
That was
fully
pretty
aware,
unfair.
because he was in violation last summer when we noticed it, and went through and started the remediation and started to plant it. So he was fully aware of the violation. So, and unfortunately, there's not much we can do to overturn the remediation and the violation that we had. And again,
because we've done everything
Mm-hmm.
right. We filed, we paid, we did we came to you,
Yep.
you know. So now, what is it that you're asking us to do to the sand area?
Well, Matt's gonna have to, at some point,
A lot of time weeding it, so obviously that was the wrong thing.
yeah,
to
it's
do.
supposed to just be allowed to grow fallow back to a natural state.
So that's what we just do. We just leave it as it is and don't weed it anymore.
Is there any way we can just let them mow it and use it as an access area?
Mow it as long as it stays vegetated, I have no problem with that.
I mean, it would be access and usable just like a beach.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be sand.
Right.
Yeah,
There's no reason you can't have grass or,
None at all. No.
I mean, there's nothing in what we issued saying that we'd have to require them to grow another forest up in there and trees.
Well, the shrubs and plant material that's against the wall needs to stay as part of the remediation.
No, I absolutely.
The strip in front of the
I'm just
wall.
talking about the strip in front where they wanted to put the sand. If,
We just leave it as is, and in
Just
1 to
mow
2
it?
years, it gets signed off because, in all likelihood,
The
But
weeds
they
are
saw
gonna
it.
grow
weeds are
back
gonna
up.
grow.
well, what
back,
would happen
whatever.
is, or, I mean, maybe they could plant some grass there, just something that they can
Something to
have,
try
that
to-
they can mow
And they
and at least
sod it.
maintain. You know what I'm saying?
Fortunately, sod's not, you'd have to use a fescue because that is wet tolerant. Bluegrass is not.
Well, the fescue is nice because if you get a fescue mix, like your commercial fescue mix, has different types of fescues that tolerate different weather conditions.
Yeah.
So you have different types of fescues that would come up in the 3 growing seasons.
yeah.
So, and that's why I suggested that, plus it would look decent. You know, it wouldn't be like you'd be allowing all these scraggly weeds to grow, like in my front yard, because I can't get grass to grow in a certain spot, and you gotta mow it down all the time. But, I mean, you know, I understand where they're coming from. My recommendation is to at least allow them that. We gotta allow them some type of access to the water. That is what they bought the property for.
Yeah. Yep.
And, I mean, they are very responsible homeowners. I could see by the way they maintain their property.
Beautiful.
They're very responsible homeowners. It's just a situation that's really, as much as we're not showing it, it's kind of biting at us because we
So
don't
let
like
me,
what's
let me
happening
be
here.
clear. If it takes 1 to 2 years to get this signed off, to let the stuff grow back, what's there, we can leave it as is now without the expense of planting anything or whatever. And there's going to be weeds that grow up.
Let it grow in?
Let it grow in.
Yep.
Yeah, you can
And
do
so
that
we
too.
can just, we can do that, and hopefully within the next year or two, if you do another site inspection, you're not gonna come and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not growing up enough.
Weedy enough.
But we will,
I think if you just
you know,
leave
we
the
will,
plant
if we
material
just
there and
leave
mow it, it will.
Believe me, there's
fill in.
plenty of stuff that's coming up there.
Yep. Yep.
You can drive what comes up.
Excuse me?
You can select what comes up.
Well, yeah, yeah,
By putting some seed down,
yeah.
if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you mow it, the more grass-type plant will be the one that takes over in the area. You know, the leaf plants will not.
And then it will be, in 2 years, then it'll be deemed a legal beach. So when we.
Or
It should-
illegal
yeah,
land.
Yeah,
Illegal
land, yeah, there should
land.
never be a beach, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we have no
illegal.
plans to sell it in 2 years, believe me.
But,
Um,
so when we, in 2 years, it can, we come, is that what we do? We come back and ask?
I would like to have the piece of paper that you mentioned, the document, signed and notarized and everything else. I mean, can we at least get that out of the compromise? We got
I can-
nothing.
I can draft
We
some-
we have nothing
I
here.
tell you what, I can draft something up that we can all look at in between meetings and agree to, and then come back at the next meeting and sign off on it.
Great, because
continue
that'll give us at least something to go away from this in the spirit
And
of
if you do
compromise.
have any questions, they are all public documents up in the Conservation Office. Then Matt can show you the progression of the work that was done, the violation that was done, the remediation that needed to be
Again, I'm
due.
just a little confused. So when we go to sell the house, Gary, then it will be a legal,
Yes,
there, we won't have to disclose
assuming we
any
get
of
this from Matt, yes.
Yeah.
No, it should, and, I mean, at this, that you may want to just check the registry of deeds just to make sure that it is attached there, but, you know, the seller was fully aware of the violation. So,
So, Mr. Chairman, if we just recapture this, we're saying that essentially this existing sandy area that had, that in, they say quote-unquote illegal beach, we will allow them to essentially allow nature to take its course.
Correct.
And grow grass or vegetation in there of their choosing, essentially.
well, if they want to add seed to it, it sounds like the wetland plants were already starting to grow in there. It wasn't just
Yeah,
vacant
I see.
seed, so
We
you've been
spent
in
a
there.
lot of time
Yeah, you've been in there
weeding.
pulling all of the wetland plants out that were seeded in there last year, so.
And
So
then-
I think they will continue to flourish in that area. And if they just start to mow it, try a little
and-
grass seed.
And we would, as a result of this unique circumstance, allow them to mow this vegetation and...
Yeah, along the edge, so they have
along the edge.
access
Generally,
to
we
the
don't
wall.
allow
And also
people
have
to
this
mow
document.
the vegetation along the embankment.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's okay.
that way if you ever do go to sell or
Vegetation,
transfer the property,
vegetation removal?
you won't
wanna
have to
make a motion
dispose it
to
because it
such?
shows up on the title search.
Yeah,
Right.
good,
Okay.
yeah.
So what you've done essentially is filed the disclosure ahead of time.
See, because
In the
our
form of that
bylaws
document.
clearly state
Okay,
no
fine.
vegetation removal.
So,
But mowing,
I guess you'll take care of that and
Yeah, I mean,
get
mowing the
back
edge
to
of it, I have
us
no
with,
problem with that. And they're
Yeah,
mowing
what I'll do
both
is I'll send
sides
it
of
out to
it down
everybody,
the
so
wall.
everybody can
Right,
look
the
at
grass
it.
comes
and this is
down.
again
okay.
because of the unique circumstances
Yep.
associated with it.
Yep.
Okay, I make a motion that we allow,
Now, this is a out-and-out denial, or this is a positive determination?
It would be a positive determination with a proposed agreement.
Okay.
yeah.
So we're making a positive
So
determination.
should we continue?
No?
No, wouldn't continue, okay. So I'd make a motion that we allow 7 Ruth Street the ability to essentially allow their beach the opportunity to repropagate itself. And because of the unique circumstances associated with this area, we would allow the mowing of this vegetated area.
Second.
Okay. Now you got that, Matt?
Yeah, essentially, Mr. Rabbit moved to issue a positive determination for a maintained vegetated area with an agreement to be notarized and filed at the registry.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
Would,
All those in favor?
well,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before would this agreement be acceptable to you folks?
well, we don't have much choice, but yes.
Okay.
Can we have like 10 feet for sand? Can I have 10 feet for sand?
Fortunately, at this point, we can't, so.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so Matt will be in contact with information. And he'll let you know the,
Little lady, did you have fun? Number one, thank you for your honesty in saying no. And number two, I just want to note how very, very well behaved you were, young lady.
Yes.
I wish my kids were that well behaved. You did great. Thank you
that
very much.
well-behaved.
Well, put her to bed, actually.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy now, thank you.
all right. Then we'll call our next hearing to order. You have something?
No.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Carrie and Sheila Planitzer for rebuilding of a wall in the buffer zone at 22 Sunset Lane.
This one actually is the original file because I blended everything together because it was small. How you doing?
Good, how
Evening. And you are Carrie?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, just to explain the origin of this file. The applicant back in January was approved under a request for determination to remove some very large trees in his yard that were in danger of falling on his residence. And as a consequence of the tree removal, he damaged existing landscape walls that they're not in water. No. And he's here tonight filing the determination to do the wall repairs. There is a
So I
diagram.
remember going
You
out-
have-
the drawing here.
I remember
There
going
is-
out to the site.
There's a copy of this in the file, but this is the copy showing all the dimensions of the wall. Yep.
So we're just repairing existing wall?
Yes.
Is all we're doing?
Yeah.
You don't happen to have any pictures?
Do not, no.
Okay.
Matt, you've gone out and seen the place?
Do you have a report, Matt?
Yeah, my report's registered on the cloud, and essentially what I recommended was a negative determination of applicability. In the future, I think we might want to look under minor incidences like this, look at maybe a policy of where if it's an interior wall like this, and it's not in the water, and it's something that's really benign that he has to repair, as a consequence of a prior filing that's still in force and effect from this commission, that we inspect, but maybe allow the repairs to go through without a subsequent filing, because I just think it makes everything duplicative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But I don't have any issue with this. I mean, I remember
Right.
going out to the site and seeing it.
Yeah, I was out there as well, and I don't have a problem with this at all.
Then you're just repairing it with equal material, of equal size?
It's the exact same stone, actually.
Okay, oh, really? So you're just setting the stone back in place?
Yeah, there's no new stone coming in. It's the same stone that was there.
Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty straightforward. So no new excavation?
No.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public on 22 Sunset Lane? Any other comments from the commission? I'll accept a motion for a negative determination on 22 Sunset Lane.
I'd make a motion for a negative determination.
And I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll call her.
Could we have done that with can we do a field change order to a notice of intent? I guess you can't.
Well, this was an RDA, and
Yeah,
technically, no,
all right,
where,
all right.
where the scope of work was different. Originally, they came for tree work.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
scope is nowhere near, if it was adding a tree, yes, but the scope is different, unfortunately, so. All right, our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on, I would imagine this one's an NOI, Summer Street? It's not an RDA.
Summer Street's in an NOI, yes.
Okay.
This is 520 Chase Road, though, isn't it?
Oh, you're right, that was a continuation, I'm sorry. So, request for determination of applicability by the Merrimack River Watershed Council and the Lunenburg DPW for the placement of trees within the buffer zone and riverfront to allow for expansion of the riparian buffer at 520 Chase Road.
Hello.
As I explained at the previous meeting, we're just looking to plant a strip of
Could
trees.
you identify yourself, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm just gonna have to get you to, yep. use the mic.
Sure. My name is Alex Crofta. I'm with the Merrimack River Watershed Council and the Nashua River Watershed Association. We're working with Jack at DPW to plan a riparian buffer restoration planting along the edge of their gravel lot, in between the edge of the lot and Mulpus Brook. We're thinking of planting maybe 10 trees, maybe 15 to 20 shrubs, and landscaping plugs, native wildflowers, and some grasses. It's part of a larger program that we're working on to do just this, to plant, to revegetate riparian areas, to provide wildlife habitat and improve water quality. In addition to the planting, Jack said he could move a few of these Jersey barriers to give us some space, and then also some sand through the course of their operations. Some sand has been kind of spilling down, not the bank itself, but the slope to the bank. And he was saying that they would be willing to clear some of that out because it's kind of getting around the base of some trees, and also it just doesn't need to be there. So that'll give us access to more of that native soil as opposed to that sand. And I think that about sums it up.
So it looks like a section of the work is in our 30-foot no-touch, but all of it's in the 100-foot buffer, and then the 100-foot in the inner riparian zone.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the conditions that are there now?
The conditions, so basically, there's a slope that I was mentioning. On the top of the slope, it's, in some places it's vegetated, with a few things here and there, but mainly
Basically, pardon me for interrupting,
No,
Alex,
of
it's basically weedy vegetation.
Right.
You've got some areas where you got broken up pavement, you've got some areas where you got sand. It's essentially,
Looks like extended parking lot.
yeah, essentially an extended parking lot with extra, sandy material pushed over as a bonus.
Right. So like on the slope and down on at the bottom of the slope, it's intact forest. The top, as you said, is compacted soil and yeah, weeds. So we're hoping to
There's a
put,
nice stormwater retention thing that
Basin
has
there.
been built there, right on the Mulpus, which looks like it takes the water from the parking lot.
yeah, it's a filtration system, Jack had said.
It looked like that was in pretty good shape and relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so-
Yeah, it's basically a stone basket system,
Yeah.
you know, just a square around that allows it to bleed out and bleed through.
And where we're on TV, can you just explain the expanded riparian buffer program? What the program's looking to do?
Sure, yeah. So it's a collaboration between the Merrimack River Watershed Council and the Natural River Watershed Association. It's a big grant. Before my time, before I started here, they identified sub-watersheds within the Merrimack River Watershed, which goes obviously all the way into New Hampshire. Identified 6 sub-watersheds that were priorities for restoration and land protection because they were not quite totally developed but not quite pristine. They were kind of on that threshold of needing some protection. So this is part of that. One of 20 sites we're going to be restoring with plantings and things of that nature.
Okay, great. And then there's no cost to the town? This is all through grants?
Yeah.
State and federal grants?
Yeah, we've got grants for the plants. I'll be digging some holes. And then Jack, as I said, is really willing to help out and, yeah, get some of that sand off of that slope.
Right. Hey, Alex,
Sure.
the question we had, we were looking, we noticed there was quite a bit of sand working its way across the parking lot and eventually down the stream and wasn't necessarily hitting the catch basin that they'd put in. Will there be an intent to put a grassy strip along that, in front of your trees and along the edge of that existing parking lot? Will
Yeah.
they do anything like that?
Yeah, what I'm looking at,
The hashed area is all...
Is that all grass?
and wildflowers, yes.
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of the idea is to, the way these are designed, it kind of goes like trees along the stream, shrubs, and then grasses to slow that overland flow and drop out whatever's there and help it infiltrate as opposed to run off. And yeah, I think Jack, when he came over, he saw how much sand had been, migrating, and he was, I don't think he had realized, so I think he's probably going to switch up the plowing regime or something to make that not happen. So he's on board with all of this.
Yeah, that'll be great for helping the Mulpus Brook, hopefully alleviate some of the silt and sediment that gets down in Hickory Hills.
Yeah,
No, I think this is a great program.
great.
And did you have a comment, Matt?
No, I recommended essentially a negative determination. This is vegetative buffer planting. This is actually quite in line with the state's goal of vegetative buffers that I often tend to get preachy about on lake shores. It's right in line with the state's goals.
Great.
Guys did a nice job planning it out.
Thanks.
All right, do we have any public comment on 520 Chase Road? All right, any other discussion from the commission?
Nope.
All right, I'll accept a motion for a negative determination for 520 Chase Road.
I'd make it a motion for a negative determination.
All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right, do you know when you're going to be doing the project?
Monday.
Monday?
Yep. We got to meet those grant deadlines.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, good luck.
Thank you very much. I
Alex,
appreciate
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Carol, still with you guys?
it. Yes.
Tell her I said hello. I haven't seen her in a while.
All right, I will. Thank you.
All right. Have a great night. Moving forward with our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Gary Steves for the placement of a dock at 100 Laurel Lane.
The other file from Blue Street? Jack, can I have that file from Blue Street? Blue Street, please?
Blue Street. Oops, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry.
Good.
All right, Gary, why don't you
Gary
take a second?
Steves, 100 Laurel Lane.
Actually, pass this, I have it on the slide if you want.
Yeah.
So do we have pictures of what the dock will look like?
It's a FWM dock, aluminum dock with a deck on the top. It's just basically 6 aluminum poles, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 8 aluminum poles that
Oh, there it is.
So it's going out 25 feet offshore with a 10-foot L?
Yeah.
Or it's going off 10 feet and 25 foot?
No, it's going out 20.
There should be another diagram you see.
Yeah,
Shows
it just says
going off.
25 by 10,
Okay,
so.
yeah,
right here.
it's 25 by 10.
Okay. If we can just have that added to the plan for the file.
And so how are these attached? Are they pounded into the embankment, or how are they attached?
It just, the aluminum poles come down on a plate, and depending on what your surface is, you can have the pole end so it just is flat on a rock, or as it goes out where there's sediment, basically, you can have it go down 6 inches and it just sets into the mud.
And this is removable every year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to leave it out there.
No.
Are there any ordinances that dictate how far your dock can go out?
Where this is a great pond, are there any
Yeah.
Chapter 91 issues?
He actually is filing with Chapter 91. I sent him all the information for it.
All right, yeah, where it is a great pond, they do have to file
Right.
with the, in the
Yep.
waterways.
Well, Mr. Steves and I had discussed that. He just couldn't get the information into Chapter 91 to do it like a joint legal, but I mean, at least he is doing it. And actually, it was Mr. Steves that asked me about it, so I just informed him as to what the program was. My report basically reflects that this particular dock and the specs is something we've habitually allowed under a negative determination in other areas because it's removable.
Yeah,
I guess one question I would have is, how do you access the dock from
Yes.
the land? What is the conditions?
I walk down to our the waterfront.
Okay. So
There's
you're not
actually
adding any walkways or?
No, nothing.
Okay, so you're just walking down under the trees, step out onto the
There's-
dock and?
There's a bunch of, like roots in area, cushy area, and we're just setting up the little piece right here, off of that onto there and just running it out.
Okay. And then in the fall, just pick everything up, take it back
Yeah,
out of the water?
it's really heavy. I called the guy, said, how do you install this thing? And he goes, well, you just unscrew the deck part and then it's easy, so it'll be a piece of cake.
Yeah, because usually we see them with wheels now.
Yeah,
So it's just wheel it down and wheel it out.
Yeah, I wasn't sure I liked that. So I was looking at the floating plastic ones that they have. That was initially what I was thinking of, but this is so much cleaner, just,
Those floating plastic ones,
Yeah.
the ice just loves to pick them up and carry them down.
well, yeah, and
Take 'em in
it,
the
you know, it looks good down in Florida, but it doesn't look good in the water up here, I think.
And a lot of people leave them in and bang, downstream they go.
Some make it really easy. Really easy putting them in and out.
Oh, really?
Across the lake, and I have wheels.
Oh, you have wheels? I'll have to watch you this.
All right, any other comments from the
Oh,
commission?
they do sell them with wheels. Yeah, they do sell them with wheels.
Yeah.
Just that you mentioned there's a mushy area you're walking through to get there?
Not really, it's just, it's like, it's sort of like this transition area from the land to the water. There's like rocks, and then it's like roots from wherever. I mean, they've been there forever, just leaves sort of settle there.
Out there at the end?
There's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of trees.
Now, are you next to the property that kind of juts out and has some stone walls and riprap around that,
They're down further,
a
I
little
think,
down
yeah.
further? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there any other docks on that property?
On my property?
Yeah, no? You're-
Well, there's I think there's a small dock on the next property down.
Oh,
and
okay,
there's
so
one-
just put-
Yeah,
You just got one dock, that's all.
yeah.
That's plenty, I know.
More than
You
enough
don't want
docks.
Don't need any more. All right, any other questions on 100 Laurel Lane from the public? Any other questions from the commission? Would you recommend
A negative determination.
and just hold on to the determination until you get the permission slip back from the waterways?
I can do that.
Okay, yeah, just hold it until we get the final approval back, that's all.
I still have to write it up, so it's not even going to sign up for a
Sign
couple of
it,
weeks, so.
yeah, okay. All right, so I'll accept a motion for a negative determination for 100 Laurel Lane.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, do we have any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, yeah, just get us the or get us the approval from the Waterways, and we'll sign next meeting, which will be, I think it's July 6th.
July 6th.
July 6th, okay. Very good.
All right, have a good evening.
Enjoy it.
Who seconded on that?
Todd, Brad, and Ken.
So I'll pick one. Todd, you seconded.
All right.
I didn't second that one.
Oh.
They were too quick.
All right, we'll call our next hearing to order pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by David Partland for the installation of screen house in the buffer zone at 45 Spring Street.
What's up, Mac?
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Mac.
Hello.
My name's David McPartland.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to give us a brief description
Breakdown.
of what you're looking to do.
Build a screened-in room down on a pre-existing cement, walls that are already there. I'm not digging any dirt up, I'm not excavating, I'm just building something on top of what's already there.
Mr. Chairman, Mac, you came before us already.
Yes, but we had to go.
It was
we had to go through the
informational.
process.
Oh, informational, I'm sorry, okay.
Yes, we had to go through the process.
Yeah.
And
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with essentially putting something on
something on
top
top
of
of
something
something
that's
the
already
cement that's already there.
Yeah.
Happen to have any pictures of it?
There's what I'm putting
Yep,
on
that's
it.
what you're putting up,
Yeah.
yep, just of the existing
Pictures
conditions.
is,
yeah.
I got some pictures here. I should have a whole file of them.
Actually, I believe we have a whole... Anyway, here, that should be something in the file. I do remember seeing photos.
Okay.
Photo right there, but it's the surface he's putting it on.
Okay.
Oh, that's a problem. Might have snow and every
Mac,
time
we
it
can
gets
keep that
built.
picture, right?
Huh?
We can keep that
Yeah, of course,
picture.
you can keep all the pictures. There's some more.
They must have had something on that before. Overflaming.
And Mr. Chairman, my report reflects that it's on existing surface. We have been down on this property before. You may recall this is the place where I got attacked by the rooster.
There you go, yep.
It's on top of existing concrete. My recommendation's for a negative determination.
You don't know when they poured all the concrete, do you?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I'm finding cement pylons way out in the water that I'm pulling out. Where they used to have a huge dock, and
Yeah.
some old timer came by, must have been about 80 years old, said, I used to own this house, and he's trying to tell me, this used to be like this. And I said, what was over this cement thing? He said, I don't remember.
He didn't tell you, he didn't try to tell you the concrete piers in the water made good fish habitat?
No, they didn't tell me nothing. I just kicked one every now and again, and I gotta find out what this thing is. When I let the water down, oh, look at them. But it was done. They said, somebody said there was, the old timer said there was like a 150-foot dock that went out there. It's only 300 foot wide to the island, so I'm kind of going, whoa, okay.
Mac, does the building department, Mike, have any questions about the structure at all?
Nope, not at all.
You're far enough
We've been-
off the property line to,
Yes, it's 14
Get-
feet off the side of the property line,
Got it.
so,
yeah, 10 feet plus every,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
It's 12 by 16.
Oh, that'd be nice size.
But I gotta do something with it, I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah,
so-
yeah, that's beautiful.
Okay.
You seen this, Brian?
I don't have a problem with this as long as there's no ground disturbance.
Right.
No, none at all. I had to secure the walls up. That was the last time I was here. I had to secure all the walls up and put in barriers because it was, the water was starting to erode underneath them. That's all been taken care of, and the monster pine trees that were pushing the wall over.
You've been out to the site, Matt?
Yeah. We're going to the
And your
same.
recommendation is?
It's for a negative determination.
Okay. Yeah, where it is on an impervious surface existing. It really isn't creating any new impervious surface, you're not doing any foundation work.
Not without asking
no
first.
groundwork, so-
Someone did that a long time ago.
Somebody did it at one point.
Yeah, probably, from what they were saying, probably back when the lake was, when they dug the lake. That's how long, I guess, the place has been sitting there. Been sitting there since the 40s, the camp that's there. Ain't really changing no side.
Have any public questions or comments on 45 Spring Street? All right, any other questions or comments from the commission? All right, seeing none, I'll accept the motion for a negative determination.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Okay, Mac, take care now. Good. Enjoy it.
All right, our next hearing will call to order pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Matthew Olson for the construction of a single-family home on lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on map 51, block 37, Northfield Road. Is there anybody here for Northfield Road?
Well, I'll say something. I'm Mark Popham. I'm Assurance sanitary engineer, so I actually have prepared the septic plans. I know the consultant for Matt Olson is supposed to be here. I know there was some communication with Matt about.
Yeah, he said he'd be here around 8 o'clock, 8:15.
But he's
Why don't we do this? If it's okay with you, we'll continue until everybody's present to present it.
Sure.
All right.
That'd be fine.
All right, so accept
Yeah,
the
we got
motion
plenty
to
of business on the
continue
way.
Northfield Road.
Recess.
We'll recess Northfield Road.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion?
moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, moving on till the end of this meeting.
Yeah.
Well, it's a recess. so-
Yeah.
All right, we have a continuation for Summer Street DPW project. And is there anybody here for the Summer Street project as an abutter or have questions? Okay.
Well, I brought a full-size set of plans, and rather than setting up the projector and everything, I thought this might be a little bit easier. Hopefully, this will be quick. We had a site walk on Saturday. You had a few questions. One was how much impervious area is occurring or being eliminated in Lunenburg, and it was about 68,000. And actually, there's more. At the last hearing, I said it was about 3/4 of an acre, but that's project-wide. But actually, in Lunenburg, it's more than that. So it's actually about 68,000 square feet, about an acre and a half, actually.
So you're adding.
So we're adding
surface to Leominster and Fitchburg.
Right. So, so you guys get the benefit of that.
We'll take this.
Yeah.
You didn't happen to figure what the total impervious was today?
258,000 roughly square feet is the impervious surface of the roadway. What we didn't have is there's additional, and the reason why there's more being removed is we're actually going out to the town line, which is much wider than even the very large roadway that is there. So it's 258,000 square feet of roadway being reduced down to 194,000 of roadway, but then behind the sidewalk, we're taking out a lot of asphalt along people's frontages and putting in loam and seed. So that number comes from like sort of a different reduction as well.
So it sounds like in excess of 20%
Yeah.
of the impervious surface. Oh, that'll be great. Yeah. Certainly help clean the air up a little bit. Well, thank you for that information.
The other thing that was asked was to look at, and this was mostly on the sidewalk, expanding one of the discharge points on the west side of Baker Brook. We looked at that. There is a little bit of land there that the railroad owns that where the discharge point is going to release into the wetland adjacent to Baker Brook. Not a lot of land, we felt that we wouldn't really get much bang for the buck, as it were, because when you count all the slopes and everything they're going to cut into there, we're only going to get a strip of maybe 5 feet of additional footprint going down the side of that property line, and or the edge of the wetland, I should say. And where that slope is pretty well vegetated and so forth, it seemed like we'd be sort of wiping out all the trees and everything along there, and it seemed to me that it would be more impact than benefit that would be achieved from that.
Okay.
So we did look at that, though.
Did you look at any other alternatives with regard to other locations you might be able to use? Because if we recall, the concern, there were multiple concerns. We were aghast at the amount of refuse on the road, cigarette butts and things like that, that essentially float and work their way immediately into the brook.
Right.
And I know we had talked about hooded catch basins.
Before we get too much further with this, all the catch basins are supposed to have hoods. I thought they weren't, but they will. They are going to be hooded.
So they will be hooded. But also there was a concern that even then, when you're running into a high velocity max flow situation, even the hoods are marginal. And we were hoping that we could create a larger holding area, and hence we wanted to explore that. Are there other alternatives that we can employ versus just allowing this material just work its way right into the brook? Even
there really aren't within the limit of the right-of-way. I mean, you've got a right-of-way width that is...
Just ask you, just pull the mic in front of you just to make sure.
I'm sorry. Apologize.
Thank you.
The right-of-way width is, outside the footprint of the roadway is maybe 20, 30 feet or so. So there's really no room along the corridor within the right-of-way that we could do this. The two outfall points are actually on adjacent property. For us to put in a detention-type facility, it would require acquiring land from someone, which is probably developable land or land in use, and most likely somewhere around Baker Brook, because that's kind of the low point. And there's really nothing much in there that the railroad is on one side, and they've got a pretty steep wall along the edge of the property there that drops down to their property. And then on the other side of the railroad property, it kind of goes uphill quite a bit, and I think that's mostly residential along there on that side. On the other side, it's all commercial of Baker Brook. With any acquisition for a basin, to create a basin, it would be a fairly large piece of land. It would have to be.
Well, is there a possibility of running a few storm drains in a serial fashion?
Actually, that's not the way you want to do it. You would not want to put storm drains daisy chained together, because what happens is they flush each other out. Your water dropping into the catch basin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's just kind of dropping in, and there's not a lot of force, and then it flows out of the basin. If you connect one basin to another basin, now you've got directed flow coming to that second basin, not just water dripping in. You've got directed flow from the basin upstream. It causes velocity and turbulence.
I'm suggesting that for each input point, rather than a single basin, you run another basin, not run them in a serial fashion like that, but I mean, one feeding the other, and then depositing into the brook, versus not an entire string all attached.
Well, all the catch basins are off essentially at the end of the line.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way they're all designed now, so that there's no flow-through water in the basin. So only water coming in off the road is going into the basin, which is a relatively low velocity, and then the water, just as it rises up, it then flows out at a relatively low velocity out of the basin. As you get more and more basins connected in the main trunk line, that's when your velocity starts increasing, and so you don't get a lot of turbulence in the catch basin itself. Mm-hmm. The turbulence occurs in the manholes and the pipe systems downstream.
How
Have you calculated the improvement in the TSS removal from existing to proposed?
Yeah, we get, based on the stormwater standards, we can claim 25% because of the deep sump catch basins and hoods. And that's basically all we can claim. Our outfall structures don't give us any benefit. And it is a redevelopment project, so we don't need to expressly meet the standards, but we do have to make improvement, and by adding the deep sump catch basins and hoods, that is an improvement over the existing conditions.
And moving forward, the new project, you will be collecting all of the water in the roadway?
Yes.
As opposed to conditions today that probably only 20% maybe gets collected?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Because it just
Right.
flows off the roadway, there's no
Right.
curbing, no rises out of the roadway.
Right. A lot of the roadway is a country drainage. It's allowed to just sheet off to the side.
I like that term, country drainage.
Country drainage, yeah, that's us.
It's a ditch.
Yeah. That, right, the one right next to the brook there was actually the worst scenario of what could happen. But since we're putting sidewalks on both sides, we have to have vertical curbing to protect the sidewalks from cars from going onto the sidewalk. When you put a vertical curb edge to the road, you have to put in catch basins. You have to put a drainage system in, because otherwise the water has no place to go. And you don't want it running down the road, because then you get gutter spread into the roadway and hydroplaning and so forth. So anytime sidewalks are put in, you need to add catch basins if they're not there.
So you're collecting in
Right.
quite a bit more water than's being collected now.
That's correct,
It's
yeah.
definitely a large improvement over
Right.
the conditions today. The only other thing that I had noticed on site was, is there going to be a rise going off onto the MBTA property? Because right now, the
Like
water
a-
just kind of sheet flows, and they have quite an erosion issue.
I don't know, like a berm
Something
at
that's gonna
the
stop the
driveway
road.
going onto the T property?
Yeah, how do you deal with a sidewalk across that section?
Which section is that?
The train station?
By the T, yeah, right by Baker Brook.
Yeah, we have, actually,
Basically, the
We can-
entrance to their train.
We can add a berm to that. It would be this driveway right here.
There must be
Oh,
something
okay.
where you have the sidewalk on both sides, so
Right.
it must have to be somewhat elevated from the road surface.
Well, it can ramp down to the side, to the driveway, but we could add
like a lip.
like a
grading
lip
on
or
it.
an edge to that, so that the water then stays on the road, serves as almost like a Cape Cod berm kind of thing, so you can mount it, drive over it, and yet it will keep the water on the road.
Okay. Yeah, that was a concern after the fact I thought about, because
Yep.
there is such an erosion problem
Sure.
there. Just to make sure that
Yep.
the water does stay into the roadway.
Yeah, we were talking before, there's a gully forming right on this side just all kinds of sand and stuff is washing down.
Well, yeah, and actually, and on the T property further up, the wall had collapsed because of the force of the drainage so badly, and they had to rip it. So we actually have to arm more of that wall up there. But I think our grading plan does have, because the state always wants to pick up its own storm drainage, we have graded it to keep the
Okay.
state's property will be within its own system, instead of pushing that off onto somebody else.
And they're both DOT, believe it or not.
You wouldn't know that by the real estate office.
Yeah. Dealing between the two, highway and.
I'm sorry, Jack, you had another question?
Yeah, I guess in terms of the amount of sediment moving through, you indicated that it was, you're allowed 20%?
No, they get a
We-
25%
Improvement.
Right.
from what it was.
From what it was, because,
The water that was collected. So
Right.
They definitely were not collecting anywhere near close to half. Most of the water sheet flows off of the
Right.
roadways it is now.
right, but the material, the sand, salt, all that. Did we go through something similar to that with Unitil? Essentially, they were making the argument that essentially this is an older piece of property and this is an older road, and we need to
I don't think there's any question that this is a redevelopment.
redevelopment. This is a redevelopment.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
difference
Yeah.
with Unitil was Unitil is redeveloping an area that had basically reached a sort of a neutral state.
Yeah.
This is so far from neutral.
Yeah.
But the redevelopment piece was, they cited the same numbers, but if it weren't a redevelopment, it would be a significantly different number. Would that be correct?
No, what the redevelopment status allows you is not to absolutely meet all the standards. You have to make an improvement.
Right.
But you don't have to meet the standard. Were this a new development, considered new development, like a new road, it would have to be designed to have 80% TSS removal, not just 25.
Right.
Okay. Now, the other thing, actually, I should go back to is the increase in pervious area. There's no TSS number associated with that, but there is a benefit for that. Because we're reducing the amount of impervious on the site. It really, that sort of leads into more infiltration capacity that will happen. There'll be an increase in infiltration, a reduction in runoff, because there's more pervious area on top of.
Right. So our debate with Unitil was that essentially, even though it's a redevelopment and you're meeting the minimum, there was the potential, if it were new, to reach 80.
Right.
And this, essentially, what we believe, and I'm quoting it off memory, which is never really good, that essentially, where practicable, you would attempt to reach the 80%.
Right.
And so, are there other practicable...
If I could interrupt, that's actually incorrect.
Okay.
It's, you remove the TSS to the maximum extent practicable.
Practicable. Right.
Now, in the Unitil case, even with the vortex separator, there wasn't that much of an increase in maximum extent. Really, all they did was they spent an extra lot of money. In this case...
I disagree with that.
You know, I examined the numbers. We could go over that at another time, but, I mean, that's not for this debate. But my recommendation here is that we need to examine this from the standpoint that this is a existing roadway that's being reduced in impervious surface, and there are limitations as to what kind of hardware can be actually put into that road. This is also under a grant, is it not?
A grant?
Isn't there like federal money in this or some type of?
It will be constructed using state and federal funds, yes.
Okay, so they have a limited budget as to what they're going to allow to be expended.
We work up an estimate with the design plans that goes out for bid. Hopefully, the contractor doesn't come too high over that estimate.
That cost factor has to be considered in maximum extent practicable, so.
And I would agree with that.
Let's make sure we do that, too.
Yeah.
And I guess the question, do you have a specific?
Well, I was impressed that Unitil was able to, without a substantial amount, able to significantly reduce the TSS removal. And after being down on that
increase the removal.
Excuse me. And after being down on that brook, honestly, with the pictures we've got, I'm totally shocked. And I'm seeing all that material more effectively washing into the brook, even though I know we've increased the impervious area.
You mean at Unitil?
Well, Unitil improved it dramatically.
Oh, they did. Okay.
And I'm thinking if we're hanging our hat on 25%, where do I come from? I'm saying, I don't want that stuff in my brook. I don't want that getting into the Nashua. And what else could we do when we came up with that retention pond as a way of causing it to settle and collect, and that could be cleaned out? Well, we've lost that option. So I'm back to the material moving through, and I'm back to higher material.
I mean, it's better than it is now.
Oh, I agree. The word is now, it's horrendous.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's not a good comparison.
Right.
But,
well, I think the intent of the regulations using the redevelopment status is to improve conditions over what they are now, not necessarily, because it is an existing facility. I think the state understood that you can't retrofit and apply the standards in a case.
And we understand that part of it. We understand, but to say 25%, and I'm close, is there anything else we could do? And like we had discussed from the site visit, we said, let's go take a look at the other place.
Right.
Can we go back and explore?
Let him answer the question.
Okay, sir.
Well, I mean, Unitil used a Vortechnics unit, a water quality unit. Those are proprietary units. DOT does not allow the use of those. They do not believe they work. They're very expensive to buy. They're very expensive to install. They're very expensive to maintain. it's about $1,000 a year to clean them. And that would fall upon the town to do that.
Right.
But more than that, DOT will not pay to install them.
Right, so
those are not
They're not an
on
option
this
for
project.
DOT.
Okay.
You take those off.
If one was proposed, the town would have to pay for it. It would be a non-participating item. They would allow their contractor to put them in, but then the town has to pay for both the unit and the installation cost. And then in future, and they're very expensive. And I can tell you, they do not work to the extent that they are advertised to work.
Okay, so we take this
Not anywhere close.
Let me ask this question. Is the project as designed up to the state DOT standards?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, everything we've done here, we're under contract to the town to do the design, but the design is being reviewed by DOT through every step. We've gone through a 25, 75, 100, PS&E, each of the steps, the design review steps that DOT has. We get comments back from DOT that's incorporated into the design. I think there's a meeting next week, actually, with DOT to actually go over the design as well.
If I can ask the question from a different angle.
Actually, why don't we open it up for a second and see if there's any other commissioners that have questions?
Yeah.
I think based on the plans and the site visit, I think the improvement to the roadway into the drainage structures there, I think is a tremendous improvement to what's there. And I think I'm certainly in favor of it as proposed.
And myself not being an engineer, I do have to kind of give the benefit of the doubt to the professionals that are doing it if it has been done to DOT standards, which it's the state, and if the state has made the regulations and put them in place, they want to make sure that it's done to the most practicable standard possible.
The DOT would not spend money on a design that was not up to their standards. They can't.
Right. One last question with two parts.
Yep.
I promise. Okay, can you tell me roughly out of all that material that we saw sitting there the other day, how much of that with this new system will get into that brook?
How much of the material?
The cigarette butts, the plastic bottles, the sand.
Yeah.
How much of that is going to be reduced?
I don't know that I can tell you an answer. I think the fact that there's going to be hoods in there, it's going to, all the floatables and the oil sheen and such, that will be retained for the most part, in the catch basins. There really isn't that much velocity in there when water is it's just dripping straight down. It's not swirling, it's not, tumbling inside the basin because you don't have a concentrated flow into it. It's that tumbling that would sort of submerge the floatables, as it were, and then allow them to get drawn out by the outlet.
So 50%, 80%, 90%?
Well, the state, I haven't done a study on that, so I don't know that I can answer that. The state regulations say we can say it's 25%, and that's really all I can go by. And that's based on studies done by others, not even the state. It's done by, there's organizations around, it's called NERP, which is the National Urban Runoff something program or something like that, which I believe is funded by Federal Highway. And they've tested and analyzed and, various different devices, including catch basins, and seeing how well they work.
25% of 4 tons, of 40 tons, 400 tons?
How would he know that?
I don't know the answer to that.
He's throwing 25% around, 25% of what? If it's just a bucket of sand, I wouldn't get worried about it.
It's 25% of what's ever there. That's the number that
it's going in
they use.
now.
It's an
That's not
arbitrary
acceptable
number.
right now, right? We know that's atrocious.
It is, but
So-
it's 25% improvement of that. So, what do you want him to do? What do you want him to
It's
say?
definitely a far greater number than just a 25% TSS number.
Right.
We're no longer going to have the erosion on site that's going to happen.
I agree with that.
We're collecting all of the water where now I'm just spitballing, but driving down the road, most of the water from that roadway sheets off the road.
Yeah.
In addition to all the cigarette butts and all of the stuff
By the way,
that you're talking
I'm really happy that we're doing that part. I'm just wondering, what are we going to do with the water once we've captured it? And what kind of quality of the water is going to be in that brook?
I think he's told you that they're taking 25% of what they can out.
In terms of quantity of material, suspended solid is dust, dirt, whatever, that's churned up and is actually suspended up in the water column. There's also sand and grit and heavier product that's put down on the road in the winter for traction control and that sort of thing, and that's going to be going to catch basins too. I don't think of that as being part of the TSS, because that settles out and stays settled out in the bottom. That's the sandy material that has got a heavy weight and doesn't really suspend. So you're going to get a lot of that material that just outright is going to settle out. But cars driving on sand, they crunch it up, and they make smaller particles, and they make dust out of it or whatever. That's the suspended solids material that's going to, has opportunity to get carried through the water column and through the stream of flow. That material, we're going to capture about 25%, but I suspect it's actually a higher number when you look at it.
But I guess I wish I had a way of verifying how much was getting through. And that's why we're looking at the holding ponds.
It'd be a very complex, very controlled study to be able to tell what was actually being introduced to the road surface versus what was getting through the system.
So the other end is to measure what's coming out and seeing what's sitting there. So has anybody gone and approached any of these other owners of property to see if they would be willing to sell?
I don't know if the town has had any discussion with landowners on that issue.
Yeah.
I guess at this point, the application and the project as designed does meet all of our current regulations, bylaws, and the state's regulation and bylaw. So I don't think that we have further jurisdiction to demand any further revisions at this point.
We as part of the application, we did ask for a variance for work in the no disturb zone because we are within 30 feet where we're putting in the outfalls, and then also just the road is within that in some places, so.
And I guess I just have one more procedural question. What is the time frame?
The project is on the state tip, and its advertisement date is February 4th, 2017, and that's what will be advertised for.
And probably starting in 2017?
It would start in later 2017. They have 90 days to get the notice to proceed out to the contractor. They would start then. We would expect it would go over a few construction seasons.
Yeah.
It's a significant project.
Okay, yeah, because I think I heard 2 to 3. At some point now, are you the firm that will follow along with the project to ensure that it is done as designed and do the as-built?
Well,
The state does their own.
the state will do that. They'll have a resident engineer on the project full-time to basically ride herd over the contractor and make sure he does what he's supposed to do and builds it right.
And I imagine they interface with the DPW pretty regularly.
Oh, I'm sure they will, yeah, I'm sure they will.
And, of course, where we're doing a 3-year order of conditions, I would imagine they would come back if it did get to the end of that, so we could extend it.
Right. Absolutely. I don't know too many highway projects that don't need extensions, just because they do take a while to get built.
Yeah, I had heard the 2 to 3 year season that this would take to do, plus another year in the bidding and getting it all out.
Right, right.
All right. At this point, any questions from the public on the Summer Street project? Yes?
Greg Bittner, 129 Pleasant Street. I was just curious if you knew when the 100% engineered plans would be submitted.
To the 75,
Yeah.
we're receiving comments back from the state on the 20th of June. We have a meeting next week to go with them, and then we'll set the schedule for that. It'll be, the 100% will probably be sometime in the early fall, late summer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Were you able to get your questions answered out on the sidewalk? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were somebody else.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, we did,
You did meet with that?
yeah, after
Okay.
you all left, I went back and we chatted quite a bit about the issue that he had.
Okay.
And I got his number and card, and we're going to be in touch with him directly.
Okay. All right, well, at this point, is there any other questions or comments from the commission?
Does this meet the intended stormwater requirements? The new intended stormwater requirements?
I'm sorry?
Does this meet the new intended stormwater requirements?
I'm not sure what those are.
The state's releasing a whole series of stormwater management requirements specific to stormwater drains. And I was wondering if you would...
New ones? Because they just incorporated the standards in the regulations in
Just releasing
2015.
it now?
No, well, they're incorporated into the standards. For years, we had a stormwater management policy, which was a policy, although it was kind of applied like it really meant it was standards. When the regulations were revised in 2000, I think it was in...
October of 2015 was when it
Thank you.
was promulgated.
They incorporated the standards, the policy into the new regulations as standards. So now it's no longer an option, we need to comply with that. Everybody did anyway, but now you do have to comply. So I don't know I haven't heard that there's going to be new ones coming out.
Oh, this is what I meant, the new 2000.
Oh, yeah, no, this is, we're talking about the standards the way they are.
Place now, they
Yeah.
have to abide by.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Any other questions or comments? At this point, I would accept a motion to accept the application as presented, and the plans as presented.
Do we need to, we'll issue just a standard order of conditions?
It would be a standard order reflected on the plans.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion that we approve the plans as presented with a standard order of conditions.
Motion, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like these?
Yeah, please.
Good, I don't have to carry them home.
That was a unanimous vote?
That was a
That was
unanimous
a
vote.
unanimous We're still way ahead of the game.
Oh, without a doubt.
We didn't get
Compared to what's there.
everything we wanted, but...
At this point, I believe I see the
I was
party
gonna say,
for Northfield
Before
Road.
we go into Northfield Road, could we get this gentleman's continued hearing out of the way for 640 Lancaster Ave?
Okay.
Is it dark in here, or is it just me?
I was about to say that. It seems dark.
Only no lights up there. All right, we have a continued hearing for an RDA on 640 Lancaster Ave
Sieging.
for the addition of another driveway. Want to come?
640 or
640. It's 460?
460?
I'll write that in. 460 Lancaster Ave.
Correction noted.
Okay, I'm William Marshall, 460 Lancaster Avenue in Lunenburg, and I'm asking for a permit to install an additional driveway onto my property. It would be 13 feet wide, 50 feet long, and the reason for it is my existing driveway enters Lancaster Avenue at quite an angle, so if you're coming from the center of Lunenburg down Lancaster Avenue, it's a difficult turn. I can make it with my car and everything. Sometimes I have to come to a stop. But any larger vehicles that come onto my property have a difficult time. And should there be an emergency, I'm sure they would have a hard time too. I do have a sketch if you haven't seen it. That I can
Just the
pass
three of
around.
us have
The
seen it, so-
highlighted area is the addition, which will make it into a U-shaped driveway, which will allow me to enter coming from Lunenburg, or anybody coming from Lunenburg Center, onto the property easily.
So
All
where's
right,
the
so-
wetland?
And I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, sir?
William Mosso,
Mr.
M-O-S-S-O.
Okay. Mr. Mosso had come and presented this application, I believe it was the May 18th meeting.
Right.
And the problem that we were having at that point is, number one, the driveway was not put in as it was designed. So there's quite a bit of a sharp angle, which does give him the issue turning. The second issue was back when all of these properties were subdivided, it was one big property. And the amount of impact in the buffer zones was capped at 15,000 square feet. And they had met that 15,000 square foot number initially. So at this point where that number has been met, there would be a variance to try to add the second driveway in. There were also questions on the water flow, because it's a very steep area. It's, I don't know what the grade is over there.
In that area, the grade
15 or
isn't
18.
too great. It's a long driveway uphill.
Yeah, and there is quite a bit of issue in that area with water flowing down onto the street. So at that time, I did contact the DPW, and given that it was an addition to the 15,000-foot cap when the area was previously subdivided, Jack felt that if he could work and try to get the roadway widened a bit and use the existing roadway that's there, he would be far more in favor of that than trying to add a second driveway in.
To widen my existing driveway is pretty difficult. There's a utility pole right on one side, and there's a wall on the other side, and it's as wide as we could make it.
Let's see if I can find his. Matt, could you just read the report that you had for that?
Well, the original one, I had recommended that the commission work out some type of a scenario where he could straighten out his driveway. Because there was a discrepancy between what was originally built and what is on site.
Yeah. All right, the correspondence I had gotten from the DPW, from Jack Rodrikins, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to offer an opinion. Mr. Mosso was in the process of building a hardscape structure on the northerly side of his driveway when we first met. I informed him of the fact that the work in part was done in the town's right-of-way and therefore erected at his own risk. Since the work was nearly completed when I saw it first, and not wanting to cause a hardship, I let him continue without having him apply to the Board of Selectmen. I agree there is potential for water shedding onto Lancaster Ave. I mentioned that to him, as well as the fact that he would have to place a pipe under the proposed driveway to ensure continuous flow. To his credit, he has regularly cleaned the drainage ditch along the frontage annually. I am at a disadvantage by not having the historical's perspective offered to me. In your letter with this new information, it would seem to me that the applicant could gain the desired access by extending a northerly radius to the existing driveway, as you suggested, if in fact he created this hardship by not building the driveway accepted to the plan. At this point, I would have no support for the additional curb cut beyond the radius. So that was from the DPW. So this, I don't know if you guys have, I see Brad had brought up the picture of it. That was the driveway angle that it was approved and was supposed to be installed.
I don't know how that happened. The builder put it in.
Yep.
Fact of it is, it wasn't. And we have clear regulations. If you change your plan, you gotta come and visit us again.
Yeah, but showing it on this picture, if he broadened, comes in off the street and broadens that side of the turn, that would allow you far more room to just come in and make your turn up and
And the other
around.
one is proposing going into the wetlands in this particular area?
Yes,
That's what
that
he's
goes
doing.
right up to the edge of the buffer zone. Right up to the edge of the wetland, yes.
Can you see this?
I've seen it,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to get out there at this point.
Jack, did you go out and look at it on the site?
No, I missed that one. No. I'm just checking at it from this angle.
Yep.
That was last week and we didn't hit that. But, yeah, open it up. Don't build another one, just open it up.
Yep.
And Jack had advised, so.
And one of the thoughts I had was, given the amount of blacktop and fill that needs to be put into this whole new cut could just be put, a portion of that could be put into extending and opening the driveway up.
Yeah.
Which I would have no problem
I'd approve
with
opening it up.
that up, yeah.
I'd approve that. But not going any closer to the wetland.
Yeah. But as far as a new curb cut in through there, I would not be in favor of that.
I would agree, and I mean, we had a discussion last time about, I mean, it's been there, existing like this for
19 years.
Several, 19
For
years.
16 years.
16 years. So I mean, I think that I wouldn't be in favor of any addition closer to the wetland.
How close is it to the wetland?
The new proposed driveway would be inside the 30-foot no-touch.
Okay.
The edge of the wetland is right on the property line. So he would be encroaching into the 30-foot.
Yeah, it's like right on the front corner, going basically at an angle
Then one
off.
of the other concerns was this driveway just basically goes straight up. The amount of water that comes off of that hill would come right down into Lancaster Ave, which is the flood problem in that area right now.
We haven't had a problem since we've lived there.
No.
Jack from the DPW suggested we put a catch basin on the side of the existing driveway, which we did.
Okay.
But there's never no water in it.
Yeah, I know we did have public comment that that was an area of concern.
Right.
One of the selectmen had brought that up.
As far as the catch basin?
The flooding issue and the issue on the roadway there with all the driveways coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if memory serves me, right in that area, there were areas of minor flooding.
Where is it?
And then all drains down to the
original plan.
large swamp across the street.
Yes, yeah.
The original plan, which I haven't seen a picture or anything of, if that driveway was to have come down the way it was scheduled to be done, it would have probably been a straight shot right down the hill into the...
Right into the road, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a straight shot, and I believe that would have created more of a water problem. The way it is now, the water goes off to the right side, if there's any, and hasn't presented a problem since we've lived there.
Originally, because I was on the commission when it was approved, it had a substantial crown in it, so that all of the water, as it came down the driveway, sheeted off.
To the sides.
To the sides. And there was supposed to be drainage in along the sides when the driveways were put in to stop the water and slow the flow as it got to the roadway.
If I recall correctly, it was a quarter per foot, wasn't it? For the crown?
Yep, yeah, it was a pretty substantial crown so that you didn't get the water running down the driveway. There's no crown in that driveway now, so.
No, but the water tends to run down the sides when it's raining hard enough. And there is mulch on both sides.
Yeah.
It would catch water, but I haven't experienced a problem.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm open to other suggestions, but.
The question is whether you actually can, is there room to expand that, knock this piece out and put driveway in?
Yeah, it looked like just if you came in at a 90-degree angle and just increased the size of that radius as you came in.
So you're turning in the driveway.
So you didn't have to come in
not
as
in
tight, you could come in and lessen the turn in off the street.
You want to race like hell.
Without really, you don't have to make it any wider, but you just, at the entrance, but you just make the radius.
In the area of the proposed driveway, sir, what's the condition of the vegetation around?
What's the condition of what?
The vegetation in the area of the proposed driveway?
Right now, it's
grass and mulch.
It's completely.
Yeah, they've gone through and cut all of the trees and taken all the vegetation out.
Okay.
Which could be an issue with the planning board, because that is a historical road. And it's not supposed to be eliminated like that.
So is the material
and another comment too, of course, generally, we would only allow one driveway through the buffer zone.
Right.
To a house. We wouldn't allow a second one.
My only thought is if it really was a safety concern about access to the driveway, I'd be open to something like permeable pavers that wouldn't allow runoff or something like that. That would be kind of an emergency driveway, but not the regular driveway, something like that. But other than that,
Yeah, I think a better fix is to figure out how to extend the driveway so that you can get a easy turn into it. And you do the turning in the driveway, not in the road.
Agreed. Open the turn up a bit, yeah. I guess sounds like that's probably the suggestion, is to see if we can increase the radius on the turn as you get into the driveway.
I don't think you can. No. Like I said, there's a wall there, there's a drainage ditch that was originally put in, and the utility pole on the other side, and the driveway is...
Yeah, we're not talking about making the entrance wider as you come in.
Right.
So that you don't have to take such a hard right, make the driveway deeper, so you can come in and there's less of a turn as you come in.
Move the driveway.
Cut the corner here in the driveway to...
Can you point to where the pole is? I think the pole's there.
Yeah, it's right on the edge of the blacktop.
I can show you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where it's...
Might be something.
It's been there 16 years, it's...
Yeah, the pole, the utility pole is right there.
Yeah, right there.
And the driveway is hugging up close to it.
So what we're saying is the problem is you come down here and you're gonna turn in.
Right.
And you run into woods.
Right.
But if you extended the driveway up here as opposed to extending it down here, here you go into the wetlands by making it come more straight off the highway, off the highway.
Off Lancaster.
So then you can come in and go up.
I see what you're...
Adding into this part of the turn right here.
Yeah.
Right.
So that way there, as you come in, you have more of a straight line before you start to turn.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah. And you don't,
And,
you
I mean-
shouldn't need to make it any wider, because it should be wide enough to get through.
Yeah.
It's the problem is you can't turn and go up the hill.
Right.
Yeah. And the work to do this spot here is probably far less substantial than to do this all in here.
And you wouldn't increase your pervious area, you wouldn't be into
Yeah,
the wetlands, you would
what I have...
be a good situation.
I don't know exactly where it runs there, but I have my city water. It comes up this side of the driveway, and it's going up here somewhere.
Yeah, but this is gonna be on top of the surface, so I don't think that's gonna affect the water at all, so.
How close are the trees to the driveway on that side?
Quite a little ways away. There's one or two evergreens.
Yeah, there's one evergreen
Right
there.
here.
Fairly big one.
Yeah.
And it's right
It's
there.
a pretty open area going on, so.
The reason I asked, it looks like it will require some tree removal on that side, but...
I think it would.
Again, it's
Might.
further away from the wetlands, which is...
Yeah, I think what we're looking for.
Yeah.
I keep hearing 30 feet from the wetlands.
Well, there's a 30-foot no disturbance zone. There's not supposed to be any work or disturbance within 30 feet. And there's a 50-foot no structure zone. And then there is the 100-foot buffer zone, which we have the jurisdiction over and can control and permit the work within that 100-foot.
So if I was to put anything within 30 feet of the zone, that's a problem?
Yes.
No, it wouldn't be a problem if it was landscaping.
If you put plant material back in, no. No, try to revegetate the area that's been decimated.
Right.
Yes.
And if I wanted to put some kind of a landscape decorative wall or something, as long as it's...
Generally, we don't allow that inside the 30-foot unless
Okay.
it's a wall that's
Okay.
existing, so.
I hadn't heard that term before, so it was new to me.
And you may want to just, like I say, bring it up with the building inspector, because I believe that Lancaster Ave's a historical road, and there are regulations on what you can do along the roadside, as far as putting in, taking out vegetation.
Even
Am I correct in that?
even if it's beyond the 30-foot mark?
It depends if it's in the right-of-way of the town.
Right.
Is there-
Considered a scenic road, so any tree removal or if you have to remove like an existing stone wall, it has to go to the planning board for approval, but basically our concern would be just along the entrance of the driveway.
Okay.
trees and...
Okay, I guess my option is to try and do something that you said, or live
Try
with
to
it.
work in the-
Or live with it the way it is.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So at this point, are there any questions from the public on 460 Lancaster Ave?
Mr. Chairman, would we want to be continuing this meeting into something in the future and come back if you want? Or you can notify us that...
At this point in time, I don't know what I would want to do. So I would just let it go.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, I'll accept a motion for a positive determination.
So moved.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You might note for the people listening, their positive determination.
Want to explain what a positive determination is, Matt?
A positive determination essentially means that the commission feels that the proposal would definitely impact wetlands, and that any further work on that or any further working on the permit would require a notice of intent.
All right, we will call back from recess application on Northfield Road. Notice of intent by Matthew Olson for construction of single-family homes on Lot 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
First of all, let me apologize. I'm sorry I wasn't here when you called me. I know you had a lengthy little process before I got here, so I tried to squeeze in another Boy Scout meeting before I got here, and I'm sorry to make you wait. So, my name's Peter Blaisdell. I'm part of the design team that was put together for this project by Mr. Olson.
Do you have a card?
What's that, sir?
Do you have a card?
In my truck. I think
That's all right.
I'll get you one thing of the night if you'd like.
That's all right, not a problem.
So, again, I apologize for not being here. I don't need to keep you any later than need be. First off, let me just start off. There hasn't been a DEP file number issued for this yet?
Yes, there was, actually. It was issued this evening.
It was, okay, because I just checked it. I was on the phone with him today, so.
Actually, I forwarded on, I checked the Lunenburg online email, and I forwarded it to you guys.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Essentially, it has been given a DEP number of 208-1094, with no comment.
No comment, okay.
1094, Matt?
1094, yes.
I was on the phone with them today, and first thing she asked was, well, when's your hearing? I said, tonight. And she said, oh, okay, well, let me see if the analyst can take a look at it for you.
Yeah, actually, it was issued it from the looks of it about like 4 o'clock or 4:30. And Mr. Olson was copied on it, you were copied on it. So there should be something in one of your email boxes at your office waiting for you.
No worries, as long as we get it. So, well, let me just strike that first one then. We do have a DEP file number issued for this project. So, is everybody familiar with the site? I understand that it's been before you before anyways. There was a order of resource area delineation done with you by another company. So I'll try to be brief, but just a little bit of my involvement in it. A lot of this was designed with the idea that it was a low impact development. The applicant really didn't want to do any structures and pipes and stuff like that is as expensive, and you have to really do a lot of maintenance and that type of thing. So that's one of the things they asked us to do. Mr. Popham was here as well. I think he spoke to you a little bit earlier. He's the registered sanitarian that'll be handling the septic systems. And it's a little bit of an unusual project, as you can probably gather already. I mean, it's a 9-lot subdivision, but there's no roadways. So it's all A&R lots, which is rather unusual. So that's got some pluses and minuses to it. But, some of the pluses obviously are that, these lots here are all on town sewer. However, these lots are going to be on septic system, which is a little bit unusual. So the idea for this was to try and work with the land as much as possible. As you know, with a lot of subdivisions, a lot of times you tend to, sort of force the land to do what you want to do with the houses and the driveways and that type of thing. So in this case, what we ended up doing was trying to capture and treat as much of the runoff that comes from the paved surfaces as possible. there's been a couple of things that are interesting to note, and if I speak too fast, just tell me to slow down. Sorry, if I get on a roll, sometimes I start to fly. As many of you know, and I see one of the gentlemen here from the planning board, we met with the planning board on May 23rd for a stormwater permit, and I believe it was a variance. You're probably going to correct me if I'm wrong. It was a special permit, possibly even a variance as well. I've spoken with the DPW director about some of the drainage in the area, because I know you've got some work that's been done across the street with the middle school and that type of thing. And essentially everything from Oak Avenue, Northfield Road, and in this site, basically all converge, and everything ends up going down to, there's an open throat structure right here on Northfield Road. And then from there, we're not really 100% sure where it goes. Even the DPW director said it's very old drainage. But it appears that everything goes via closed pipe conduit, collects together, and then it goes to another drainage channel down the street, and that's where everything goes. So our attempt to sort of make this work, to make everybody happy, was to collect as much of the runoff as possible, slow it down, give it some areas to recharge, make sure that, first and foremost, make sure that we're not increasing the peak rates of runoff that leave the site. So what we ended up doing was, scattered throughout the site and sort of dispersed, is 11 small little ponds. And what we ended up doing was, instead of using catch basins and trench drains and that type of thing, we basically have just super elevated all the driveways. So all the driveways are just basically tipped to one side. Pretty simple. If anything, I'm sure you have it around here in town, and they love it in New Hampshire. It's really just a country drainage system, is the easiest way to describe it. I mean, it's very simple.
A ditch.
What's that?
A ditch.
A ditch.
A ditch.
A ditch. A ditch. I'm going to call it a nicer ditch, though. So yes, they're a ditch. And what we'd like to do is sort of tip everything to one side, and then from there, instead of having a lot of places for it to just run and scour, we're putting stone trenches just off the driveway. So, once it hits that, it can go in, filter down through like a pea stone layer, which removes the stuff on top, and the nice part is you can go in afterwards and you can literally just, blow it off, and it's good. Those all then go down into another layer, and then those do a couple things. They provide volume for groundwater recharge, and then it also provides some volumes for it to just sort of slow down and then come out. So each one of these houses in driveways essentially is all tributary to all these little 11 ponds that were scattered all throughout the place. Now, as an engineer, can't stand it. I really would rather have just one gigantic pond down the bottom, a couple catch basins. It's really easy to model. This was a little bit more intricate, but just to give you an idea of just where the runoff is running, and then just kind of give it just a little bit of color. So, and the reason we're before you, obviously, is that there's some wetlands here on the site that were done in the ORAD. This one that I've highlighted here in pink, that appears to be just an isolated area. It doesn't seem to have any runoff that leaves it. It has a sort of a berm around it. So I just basically took that little 4,000 square foot area out of what reaches down here. This area that's shown in light.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Was that area noted in the ORAD?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It does count as wetlands because we do have an isolated wetlands bylaw.
Oh, no. I'm just saying it doesn't send runoff towards this culvert.
Okay.
But it's
There's no flow from it.
No, we actually, we're.
I just wanted to clarify because
sure.
the language you used made it sound like you just disregarded that wetland.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. From a drainage standpoint, from as far as a buffer zone and everything, no, we're honoring it. It has a buffer and it has a.
All right, that's what I thought. I just, for some reason, maybe things had changed, but.
No.
Nope, okay, good.
So none of the driveways are crossing the wetlands?
No, they're not. The only place we have any crossings, and this was worked out by Linfield Engineering and your DPW director, and forgive me, I don't recall his name.
Jack.
Good name.
Good strong name. So
They named him after you, his parents did.
it's my favorite Uncle Jack. These houses here have to cross that ditch, to use your words, and what we're going to do is essentially build just a little crossing made out of twin 12-inch culverts, and what the planning board asked us to do in doing that was just make it look nice. It's going to have either stone facade or some type of a texture to it, so that it looks like it fits in with the spirit, I think, of Lunenburg, which is farming and agricultural, and just make it look like it's not just some hunks of concrete stuck there. So beyond that, this area that I've highlighted in this light blue, essentially that's the area that is tributary to this existing catch basin that's here, right across from the middle school. Everything else that you see here in green, all that comes from the areas that are just upgrading of us, and that all comes down through our site and, you know, goes through the wetlands, and then ultimately everything comes around the corner and goes right into that open throat structure. So that was our basis of comparison, and for the rate comparison that you'll find in that voluminous package that we gave you, I can just sort of cut it down for you. This is really
Here's the stormwater permit application.
Pages
This
to
is
one.
really-
I like that.
This is really the important part.
That's
And
a
and
good
all that
point.
does is it just shows the pre and post development rates. And it just shows that we're decreasing the rates to those comparison points, which is what we're required to do. I believe not only your local requirements, but also under the DEP requirements. So that's the existing condition, just to give you an idea of what the site looks like. And then in the proposed, this is where this is why I make the big bucks. All these little purple areas are those areas that are then taken out and they go to their own little detention basins. So each one of these areas then has its own pond associated with it, and then we model that so that we can make those rates get reduced, which is what this gentleman is holding here.
So,
go ahead, sir.
May I ask?
Go ahead.
The driveways are within 30 feet of the?
No, actually,
closest is, I can't.
The closest.
If I could again interrupt, I apologize. To answer your question, Jack, they actually did a really good job honoring the 30 and 50-foot no-touch zones.
It looks
I don't see any disturbance.
They really did an excellent job, I thought. I also noted that in my report about the 30 and 50-foot, so, I anticipated that, one of you guys would be concerned about the structure zones.
Closest one is,
yeah.
I'm not sure if that's lot 4 or 5.
Also, you did get your stormwater permit, Mr. Bittner?
Yes, we did.
We approved it, I think we made an attachment that the maintenance of this would be the responsibility of the property owner.
Yes.
Right.
So that it would be notified.
Yeah, and that the,
Not a deed restriction, but attached to the deed so that they would be
Right.
informed that
the permit itself needs to go to the homeowner so that later on they can't say, geez, I didn't know about that.
It's probably something we'd want to put in an order of conditions, a permanent condition on maintenance of the country
Yeah,
drainage.
just so that whoever.
That it would support the
so that
planning
if there was
boards.
some need for enforcement, they couldn't say that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, this, and I don't, I don't recall if you said that you
It
wanted
does
the
come
operation and
within our
maintenance
jurisdiction
plan
at some point.
to go in there too. It may be, you can condition it however you want, so I mean, all the information that you really is the important part, like the operation and maintenance plan and all that is in here, and you can just take it out of here and just say that you want it as a condition. You want to make sure that it goes into either the purchase and sales agreement or whatever you want to do.
Well, I mean, normally, when the order of conditions is issued, it's going to wind up showing up on all their deeds.
Sure.
So,
But it gets lost, because.
well, I mean, it does get lost, but at the same token, when we issue the certificate of compliance.
Yeah.
The stormwater O&M plan, which is cited in the state's boilerplate now.
Right.
We can reference as a perpetual condition as far as the
Sure.
O&M plan being implemented by the homeowners. We can reference that on the certificate of
The
compliance.
nice part about this plan is that you don't have to hire somebody to come out with a clamshell or a vac truck or,
Yeah, it's very easy
It's
maintenance.
really just gonna be mowing and making sure that you don't have junk in it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that some of these kids are probably gonna be hockey players and they're probably gonna, have skate in it.
What are the depths of these ponds?
Apologize, I do have the conditions here from the planning.
The plan, yeah, if you want to forward along to them. What are the depths of them? They vary anywhere between like a foot and a half, 2 feet deep.
Okay.
They're essentially just depressions. And then the other thing we wanted to do was, and I know to your point with the buffer zones, when we first did this, I actually had this basin down further, and the applicant just said if there's anything you can do about getting that out of the 100-foot buffer zone, I'd appreciate it, and just make sure that there's nothing in between the 30 and the 50. Actually, Mark Popham did a lot of this work too. I did some work, so he deserves a lot of the credit. He did a nice job, I think. And
Are they at a depth that they will hold water and eventually become hydric in wetland systems?
you know what? A good chance. I mean, I don't know. I'm from Billerica, and our bylaws are nuts. So if you build a stormwater management area, and 3 years later, you've got some hydric plants and soils in there, they take that as a wetland. So I don't know if this is gonna be the same case. If you do that here, I didn't mean to call you nuts.
Well, as far as the grading, does the grading at the base of those basins, is it below grade of what's existing now?
A little bit. They're a little bit deep. I mean, like for instance, the existing grade here at this one is like 542.5, and the bottom is at 541.
What's groundwater?
The groundwater varies. Like we don't have elevations at every single one because we really just have groundwater grades at the septics. I mean, Mark, I don't remember what the variant was. Mark could probably speak to it better. He did the testing.
I can answer that. Basically, across the whole property, we did certainly in the area of the 4 lots that have septics up on Northfield Road, there were 4 deep holes per location there. And then we had done, even before we figured that this was going to be 9 or 10 lots, we had done some preliminary lot testing around the property just to see what we had out there. Yep. And in general, the depth to seasonal high water table is about 24, 27 inches across the property on average, which is why part of the sloping of the driveways and the building up of the houses themselves was basically put into motion by the necessity of elevating those 4 septic systems. So it tended to create some knolls by necessity anyway in order to have septic systems be allowed on those 4 lots.
Why were the septic systems selected for those lots as opposed to extending to meet the obviously adjacent sewer?
The DPW determined very early on that there could not be a sewer extension. The capacity did not exist to tie in any additional houses on Northfield Road. So it was only allowed, that was a very early determination on even affecting the number of lots on the property.
Septic systems are generally better. Cheaper. Except for Brad's going to disagree.
Until they fail.
They do a nice job recharging.
Gravity.
Yeah. But that's essentially how these work too, is that they work just by gravity. So if the, if they get enough of a storm event in there and they fill up, they'll just spill over a stone spillway and everything will just go through a nice little swale packed with good sized rocks to slow the velocity down so that we don't get any erosion and scouring out in the channel.
What size storm have you engineered to?
Right up to the 100.
Right up to the, okay.
Yeah.
So up to the 100 will be collected on
Yes.
site in those areas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, this is very conservatively engineered.
That's me.
I just noticed on the H house, there doesn't seem to be a sewer water line going to it.
There is a sewer and a water line in here somewhere. I'm just not 100% sure where it is because that house is actually under construction right now.
Okay.
So originally...
It's definitely on sewer.
Oh, yes, it's definitely on sewer. Originally, when I was going to submit this to you, the house was actually further down, but I think he took a look at it and he just said, you know what, I'm going to pull everything out of the buffer. So that's what he did. He ended up pulling this up here. And you know, these folks are going to have a nice buffer down here between here and there now. So
none of the swale along the roadway was considered wetland? Were you doing a crossing onto Northfield Road?
Right here?
Yeah.
No, that's actually just lawn right now. There's some...
Was more Northfield
Right here?
Road. Up
Here.
There you go.
To my knowledge, no. Like I said, I just got the ORAD that was approved, and I just referenced that on the plan, but I did not call it.
I didn't think there was, I just couldn't remember exactly.
Right.
I don't have any depicted on the plan.
Other than that, I mean, there's really nothing else earth-shattering. You know, there was a couple questions from the planning board. Nothing was really, let me just see, there was, like I said, there's a couple of conditions.
And the green marking around the homes, those are the limit of work?
That's just me with a marker. But essentially, there is a, I'm not sure if it's on this plan or not, but there is a silt fence line on here. This is sort of a combination between me and somebody else.
Yeah, you know, that was, and again, I apologize for the interruption.
It's okay.
But there was one thing I did cite on my report.
Yeah.
Was that the erosion protection is not really clear. Actually, on what I had for submittals on the cloud, it was non-existent.
Why don't we do this? We will submit you a revised plan that makes it more clear. Because I know there was an erosion control plan that was on the one that was sent to me, but I think the miracle of AutoCAD, it probably froze it.
Okay.
It didn't turn it back on. So, you know what we'll do? Why don't you just keep that as just something you want, and we'll just submit to you a revised plan that shows.
And if you
shows it on here.
could depict the edge of work in the green.
We'll, yeah, you know, what we'll do is
It looks like it's fairly close. I mean, I don't see a lot of need to be developing outside of that area.
Well, I mean, I know you have the 50-foot no disturb. I mean, I'll talk to the owner and see what he wants to do. I mean, if he wants to have a little bit more flexibility, like in other words, if he wants to have I was just sort of just coloring this for rendering purposes. I mean, if he wants to have a little more room to work, I can ask him if he wants to show it just outside the 50-foot, offset, or I can ask him where he wants to put it. This, again, is just me, showing you sort of what the limit of the lawn is going to be. I mean, there could be some landscaping beyond that.
What types of protection are we putting in with regard to the end of the driveways?
So at the end of the drive's going in here?
Yeah, such we're keeping the mud and the crud.
I mean, it's hard to see. It should be on the house plan too.
Oh, so,
that and protecting
all we're
our
gonna do
storm.
there is really just pile some stone up.
Riprap, 50-foot off each road.
When you look at the overall plan, it's not clear when the house boxes are out.
You know, what I'll usually specify is you can do some stone check dams.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, in the diameter can vary. For something out there, I'm not sure, this is the one part that, and forgive me, this is the one part I didn't really talk to the DPW director about. I don't know if he has a certain amount of, he just said stabilized with crushed stone. So.
Yeah, how many feet in, I guess?
Oh, how wide are the aprons?
Yeah.
I'd say they're probably gonna be like 6 feet, you know, they'll probably spread out 4 to 6 feet from the mouth of the culvert and then do the whole width. Like, in other words, it's sort of like a U, so I'd imagine it would just sort of fill in the sides.
Okay, going off, trucks coming down, got a pile of mud all over the tires.
Sure.
Are you gonna be running some sort of riprap?
Oh, you're talking about construction?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant just normal traffic.
No.
If you want, what I can do is I can give you a detail for a tracking pad, if that's what you're asking. So sure. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
I think you're talking about the driveways themselves, right?
Well, yeah, coming off the driveways onto the roads.
I think, I mean, the town bylaw, the driveway bylaw says you have to pave an apron before construction, I think, right? Isn't that-
Yeah, well, you're keeping the,
That may be, I mean, some towns are different, like, in other words, what I'll usually do here, like, if there's gonna be a lot of vehicles, but again, these are all single-family houses, we're not building a road.
Right.
You know, normally what I would do is I would do 24-foot wide tracking pad, 6 inches depressed with 8-inch to 10-inch rocks, and it does that. However, again, I mean, the biggest delivery you're gonna have here is, you know, maybe some small trucks, but we can do one of two things. We can either do what this gentleman suggested, where they have it paved first, or we can do, if they build this, they can maybe just do a tracking pad over the top. I'll have to see what the owner wants to do, just to keep anything from mud from spraying down. The other thing you can do, if you want to put it in your order, and I've had before, is at the end of the day, they have to go out and they have to either hand sweep or do whatever they want. They have to take the sediment right off the road, and that's usually the easiest thing to do, because let's be honest, stuff happens, mud falls, flies. I'd rather see them just go out at the end of the day and make sure they do some housekeeping with a broom.
yeah, my experience has been that doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, that's what we have to let him know he's gonna do.
And there's nobody looking.
Comment for the developer. Worked with him on another project. He would just as soon, rather than do the tracking pad, where we've had a intermittent brook crossing before along the state highway, he's come in and paved the pad, because his opinion is we make more of a mess if we put the stone pad down and then pull it back out in short order to put the driveway in. So I can offer up that we would do, you know, whatever length pad.
We can schedule it that way.
If you just want to make it a condition, I don't think it's a problem.
So he'd pave it to some degree.
To some point, yes.
You know, maybe
there's an initial activity on each lot.
Maybe he has to pave, you know, 24, enough for a truck or something like that, maybe 24 feet or, you know.
And then you'd support daily sweeping.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll see why not. I mean, the guys are there, you know, they usually have the brooms right inside of their trucks anyways.
Yeah, okay. Because if we get complaints.
Only if you're inside the buffer zone, though. No, I think he wants to make sure it's clean. And like I said, that's usually a compromise that we've come up with that usually makes everybody happy. They just have to make sure it's clean.
I mean, I've been watching the house he's been building now. I haven't had too much heartburn over it as far as things being dragged out in the road. So it's been good so far.
Right.
So at this point, there's no disturbance inside the 50-foot?
There is no disturbance inside the 50-foot, no. For either the isolated wetland or for the two other wetlands. There is some disturbance, as you can see, inside the 100. But no, nothing inside the 50. This one comes
Looks like we got a couple
right on the
houses.
line, but close, but no.
Yeah, that one
We can
house
even
is
scooch that over a little bit.
We've got one that's just in, and then a couple that are right on.
Yeah, this one's right on, and this one is just off. And, you know, but we've got a little bit of room if we wanted to, you know, if we want to stake the limit of work line first, they can scooch it over a little bit or make the driveway a little narrower, whatever he wants to do. But other than that, I think I pretty much touched on all the same points that we had with the planning board. I mean, it's like I said, it's the same plan. They have the same.
And you are assuring that during the construction, there will be no intrusion into the 50-foot zone by any kind of equipment or anything?
Geez, I hope not. You know, we can do a couple things. We can stake, you know, we can put some stakes across the 50-foot no disturb.
Yeah.
You know, I certainly can't guarantee that somebody's going to do the wrong thing, but we can stake them and just say 50-foot no disturb zone on the stakes and let them know that they can't go in that area.
Or you can put when you come back with a proposed erosion control.
Yeah, treat
Use
that as
your
well.
erosion control as a limit of work line as well.
Yeah,
For that area.
I'll talk to Mr. Olson, just see exactly what he wants to do, that if this limit of work is sufficient, or if he wants to show some other areas, he may want to do some other lawn areas, I don't know, but in either event, we can certainly make sure that the 50-foot line gets staked. He may want to hold that for limit of work, I'm not sure.
In fact, you would have Brian Zock come out when he does the individual lots. He'll have him do. Usually, what he does, he'll have almost every 50 feet to a sideline on the lot, so it gives you some control in this piece of property before he starts the construction on each lot. The other thing he will do is he'll determine where he's already picked up the ANRAD before, and there's basically a monumented plan for that. He'll come back and replicate that in the field. I believe now, when we did the testing for the lots that have septic systems, even the test pitting for that recognized the flagging for the 100-foot buffer zone. So there's a baseline established, and we can establish the 50-foot at that point as well. But if you want to make that a condition at some point before work on these lots, that you're apprised of the surveyed flagging locations, I'm sure there would be no issue.
Did you say it was Brian that would come down, or?
It's Zock's surveyors.
Right. So was it Brian or his son?
Equivalent, whichever one did they use a couple of different guys.
Yep, okay.
Boucher or Zock, one or the other, whoever did the original.
Do we have? You're talking Ed Boucher?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the next question I was gonna have. Can we have a plan for each house? Because it doesn't sound like you're gonna do all of them at the same time.
Well, I know we have to do individual septic plans, and I think he has to file individual plot plans anyways with the building inspector.
Okay.
I could let him know you get copied. I mean, obviously there's a couple here that are outside the buffer zone, but if you still want them, we can let them know that you want to be copied on, or if you want to just be copied on the ones that have buffer zone disturbance, we can do that too.
Any of them that are gonna have limits of work inside the 100-foot buffer?
Sure. I think you get copied on them anyways.
Yeah, those are the ones basically that we have full jurisdiction over, so.
Absolutely.
We want to make sure that we have those, and then we have something a little easier to refer to, rather than 40 scale or 60 scale, whatever this thing's at.
Mr. Chairman, we approve them individually then? We're not going to approve
I believe they're filed as one, I don't.
Filed as one.
It's filed as one.
Filed individually, so we're going to approve this all or nothing.
So, yeah, we'd come back later on for probably either partial certificates of compliance as each one's done and sold, or they'd come back for one final at the end. So that's the way you want to do
If
it.
any of these change locations.
These 4 lots here have individual lot plans already. They're into Neshoba and Board of Health for approval. They actually give you a broader view. They're at 20 scale in order to show the details of the septic system. And on those, there's some detail for siltation, fencing, and give you a closer up view of just what grading extends into the 100-foot buffer zone, and confirms that all that works outside the 50 too.
And I can actually take Mark's plans and make sure that the erosion control matches. That way, if you overlay them, they'll be fine.
Do these drawings include decks?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't believe so.
Because if
Not
you're
on
putting
these.
some decks along those edges, you would be starting to intrude.
You know what, he may have some decks. I haven't seen final house plans. I mean, these are,
Patios?
this is, no, nothing. I mean, this is more of just, a broad view of the drainage. It's really not a plot plan.
Well, I'd be more worried about that if it was close to the 50-foot no-touch zone with the house.
Yeah, I just don't know how the...
It'd still work within 100.
Right.
Yeah.
If it does.
Yeah, I mean, any work, like, even if we were to add a deck to this one, we're already asking for permission to disturb inside here anyways, and if it's just a deck, it's not a...
Right, but it should be noted on the plan.
We can ask him if he's gonna do it, and you're gonna get copied on this plan anyways, so.
Okay. So we need to see the decks.
Well, I've seen Matt Olson's houses before. He usually does do decks.
It's pretty standard, I think, to do a deck today, but like I said, at this staging for like what I'm doing, I generally don't get like the final, is this gonna be a deck or patio, and I agree with you.
Well, I mean, the other thing, you can just instruct him that any decks just need to be outside of the 100-foot, and then it doesn't really fall into our jurisdiction.
Right.
Because it looks like all of the backyards are outside of the 100-foot. The only one is just that narrow.
Yeah, I mean,
that one there and a
this one has
backyard.
one, this one's out,
Yep.
this one's out, that's out, that's out, that's out.
That's
If he puts the
space
deck down here, he's fine, but we'll just let him know that, for this one, he needs to let us know if there's a deck, and maybe if I'm gonna give you a revised plan anyways, I can ask him if he's gonna be decks, and I can add them. It'll make your life easier, which won't be a problem at all.
If he changes any of the locations or moves it a couple of feet, you're coming back, right?
I think he has to for any
Just remind me.
change. Oh, I'm just a
Do you have
poor
any
country
official
engineer,
comments
folks.
on this, Matt?
Well, I mean, my official comments are basically what I was commenting on now.
Okay.
So it's just reflective of the same thing. The lack of limit of work, the erosion protection, those are things I also cited in my report as well.
All right. So no other specific areas of concern? Do we have any questions from the public on Northfield Road? All right. Do we have any other questions or concerns for the applicant's engineer?
It's creative, I like it.
All right, at this point, then, I guess I would accept a motion for approval of the application.
With the following modifications, Mr. Chairman?
If you make the motion, you can list the modifications.
Thank you. I'd like to make the motion that we approve the plan as presented with the addition that all the driveways will have pads, including a daily sweeping schedule. We would designate a 50-foot line with potentially erosion control, and the erosion controls would sit at 50 feet. Is that correct, Matt? Is that your proposal?
To clarify, they'd be at the 50-foot no structure line.
No structure line, that's correct. We would need to see the decks and assure they stay outside of the 100-foot line. And we need a definition on the erosion control plans themselves, what they would look like. Is that correct, Matt? Did we get that?
Yes.
Okay.
So let me see if I got this right.
And any individual plans should be submitted prior to signing
Okay.
of the lots that have work inside the 100-foot.
Right.
Give me 1 sec. Come on, Matt, type. Wow.
It's being recorded.
Sorry,
You're all
guys.
set. Twice. Twice, I know.
So what I have so far is that, Jack, you move to issue an order with the addition that all driveways will have pads. There'll be a street sweeping schedule included, a limit of 50-foot no-touch and erosion protection lines included on the plans as well, and that individual lot plans will also be submitted prior to work commencement.
Yeah. And not just the lot plans, it'd also be the 50-foot
I had that, a limit of 50-foot no-touch and erosion protection lines to be added.
Yeah, and it'd be designated in the property, the stakes or erosion lines would be in there.
Okay.
Yeah, the
And
coconut.
Staked in the field. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Such that the contractors wouldn't move inside the
Okay,
zone.
awesome, thank you.
Any decks,
Right.
Any additional work within a 100-foot buffer.
Yeah.
To be added to the
Right.
plan. All right. So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right, so you'll have us the updated plans prior to our next hearing on the 6th, at which point we can sign our order.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good work. Very nice work.
Can you also submit any plan changes to me by PDF?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually, I couldn't find that plan. Do we have that plan on PDF?
Yeah, it's on the clock.
Oh, that one is?
I got it.
Okay.
In fact, I have a DVD of it too if you want it.
Okay. I know, just on the.
It was on the cloud.
Okay. All right, moving forward, we have a continuation of a public hearing for 101 Pleasant Street.
Doesn't look like there's anyone here.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, we have been in
Thanks, guys.
communication with the applicant's engineer from Whitman and Bingham. Matt performed a walk with the wetland specialist to update the wetland flagging along the entranceway in off of Pleasant Street. And we were told that those would be updated by Whitman and Bingham and a remediation would be presented to us. So we have not heard back.
Were they scheduled to be back, Mr. Chairman? Or,
They're supposed to be back once the
yeah, I was
wetlands
under
have been delineated, and the
Yeah.
wetlands have been delineated. When did you go out, Matt?
That was a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I also had gone through the other areas with the wetland specialist on 225 and 225 Pleasant, 190 Electric Ave.
Yeah.
So,
We'll take that up after.
I guess I was anticipating that they would be back already. And essentially, there would be some sort of a remediation plan presented by now.
well, I know he is working on it. I mean, I did speak with him about a week and a half ago, and it is a rather complicated plan that he's going to have to submit. There's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done.
And there'd be a lot of quotes to go out in terms of establishing a value with regard to the cost. Do they have any commitment to us? Because I believe that their work still essentially going on the property?
I don't believe there's any work going on
No
that I've
logging?
noticed.
There was some forestry work going on out there that wasn't being done properly, and the forester was notified on that.
Okay.
Other than that, there hasn't really been anything substantive.
Okay.
So
More just like puttering around.
can we put a stick in the sand and say you're here for the next meeting? And then you've got some sort of a remediation plan ready?
If that's the commission's wish.
Remediation plan, at least an update on the status of the remediation.
Yeah,
plan. We
'cause-
haven't heard word one from them.
Yeah, because this is a notice of intent to update a violation, so I do think that it is within our purview to give him a little push.
Also, DEP is asking for any updates that, on remedial action, because they are looking at this. They might actually, if they decide they want to see more than what we actually approve, they might intervene on their own as well.
Okay.
And they probably might leave it to us, but they are examining it very closely.
So can we
Can
put
we
something-
contact the engineer
Yeah, I can
tomorrow?
send them a notice.
Okay.
Yep.
And if it's within the purview.
I can do
of
that
the
tomorrow
app.
morning, yeah.
Okay. That he should be presenting us with an update on the 2nd.
Absolutely.
Or the 6th.
Right.
Okay. Yes?
Greg Bittner, 129 Pleasant Street. I thought it was established at the last meeting that he was supposed to have the reestablishment plan for all the properties submitted by this meeting.
We were waiting on the delineation, which I don't believe Matt had done prior to our June 1st meeting.
Right.
I thought it was.
I believe that the reason he was granted an extension was because the delay was not caused by, but they had agreed to not go out and do the site walk because it was raining, and then 2 days later, they did it, so
Mhm.
it was a delay of 2 days. But I
When did you
distinctly
go out with
remember at the
Steve?
Actually, I've been out on 3 separate occasions with Mr. Erickson that you may not know about.
Right.
Okay, it's that was subsequent to the rain event, the cancellation. I've been out 3 other additional times since. So Mr. Erickson is doing some serious work out there, doing measurements, not just on this property, but on the one we're going to talk about in the enforcement. There actually is a lot of, shall I say, internal discussion going on between Mr. Erickson, Mr. Rowe, and Mr. Gardner, which is one of the reasons why I think Mr. Gardner has agreed to actually come up with a plan for him to remediate the town portion, which is under our enforcement.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I can understand, you know, like Mr. Bitton is concerned that, you know, we need to make sure that this thing keeps moving forward. The commission has the same concern. So if the commission chooses to do it, you know, drop the deadline as far as when to get all this material in, just give me a date and I'll send it to them.
I would think, Matt, that we would be asking that they provide us with a regular update, not necessarily having to depend on the chairman or yourself to give us. You know?
Well, in this instance, I mean, you know, that would be a function of the landowner, Mr. Gardner.
Yeah.
Not necessarily with his engineer, for example.
Right.
I know Mr. Rowe would love to be able to provide us with updates, but that's up to his client to decide.
Ought to be paid.
And my opinion on it is, and I can understand where you're coming from, but with this, my particular experience and this commission's experience with this client, I wouldn't want to do regular updates because he'll regular update us to death and we'll be here a year from now going, well, what's the scoop with the regular updates? I think we should probably do a drop dead deadline saying, let's get a final plan that we can deliberate and approve in here by a certain date.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I myself don't see any reason, if you're comfortable with the delineation that has been completed, that he shouldn't be able to have his remediation plan for July 6th.
That's fine. I can give him the July 6th drop dead date.
I think he should have the remediation plan for 101 before us for July 6th. I mean, that's still 3 weeks from today. Yes, sir.
Greg Bittner, 129 Pleasant Street. So if he doesn't have a plan by then, would you have to wait another 2 weeks to have an administrative hearing before you could start finding again? Or is there a way to set an administrative hearing?
At that point, I would recommend, at that point, I'd recommend we'd simply deny his application and refer him to DEP. If we're going to continue to get excuses on 101 Pleasant Street and not get something, which we should have by July 6th, then we should probably just deny his application and refer it to DEP and let them intervene.
Well, why don't we set an administrative hearing for July 6th, and at that point, we can bring that up.
Well, that's, I would have set that up as an administrative hearing.
So then we would have the ability to
continue the
start the fining process at that meeting.
Depending on,
You would be able to-
and pick a route for us to continue on if he's not prepared at that time. Right.
Excuse me, 129 Pleasant
Yes.
Street, Greg Bittner. Yeah, I just want to make sure that if he doesn't comply, that the fining can start immediately.
Yeah.
Have to
Yep,
wait
no,
another
that-
2
that's a
weeks.
good point,
And
yes.
I think the only time that he has produced information to you expeditiously is when his feet were held to the fire with the fining. I think there's been a history of dragging feet on his part. Understandably, there was a minor delay caused by them not being able to do the site walk, but I think a 2-day delay does not warrant a 2-week extension.
No, okay, we will mark that in, so we'll have plan on an administrative hearing after the scheduled hearing, if it is needed. All right, any other questions on 101 Pleasant Street? All right, seeing none, at this point, I'll take a motion to continue.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, okay, so we have enforcement issues. The next property is 225 Pleasant Street and 190 Electric Ave.
And 172 Hemlock.
And Matt, do you have a comment on, I believe, again, you walked out there with Mr. Erickson and delineated the property?
Yeah, let me just finish this. Okay, essentially, excuse me, I'm very sorry. I walked out on the town's property with Mr. Erickson looking over the damage that was done, going over the pre-existing plans that Kinder Morgan had on the property, showing conclusively the wetland that was altered, the floodplain that was altered, and the riverfront that was altered, that would be great. Thank you, Jack. Forgive me, guys, allergy season. Anyway, in speaking with Mr. Erickson on site, Mr. Erickson subsequently indicated to me that, I believe Mr. Rowe might have indicated this to you, Mr. Chair, that Mr. Gardner has agreed to submit a remedial action plan and go in and do the work and clean up the mess he made on the town property. So this is what we're waiting on now, similar to 101 Pleasant.
Okay, and Mr. Rowe for Whitman and Bingham had tried to schedule a site walk, being able to come up with a remediation plan and having him do the work basically all on the same day last week. And both Adam and Matt informed him that that would not be feasible. He would need to come up with a remediation plan, present it so that the selectmen would be happy with it and we would be happy with it. So at this point, we haven't heard back from Mr. Rowe to go out on site and develop the remediation plan for the violation. So we're just waiting again on that.
Could we also schedule an administrative hearing on that violation as well on July 6th?
Yep.
Well, that would be the town though, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be the violation on both, so.
And the town property though, we've given them an extension.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we? Went
60 days.
60-day extension.
The town property, though.
Well, we've given the town the extension. The owner at 190 Electric Ave has not filed,
Right,
so
that's
he
what
is
I'm saying.
technically in violation. So
Right.
at this point, we can have a administrative hearing for 190 Electric Ave.
Right.
So we'll add that to the agenda for July 6th. And moving on, 189 Howard Street. Anybody from 189 Howard Street? That is the Jacobson's farm. And we were just looking for an update. We had given them a deadline of July 1st to clean up the edge of the field.
Right.
And pull all of the debris out of the wetland.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if we could pull both parties in for an administrative hearing, because my take on it is on 172 Hemlock.
No, Howard Street, Jacobson's.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I was also talking about Mr. Thomas as well.
Okay, let's give us an update on Jacobson's.
Well, Jacobson, they had until the end of the month to get it done. We probably should schedule them for an administrative hearing and then do a Saturday sidewalk for the July 6th meeting as well.
Okay. So I'll add another administrative hearing for July 6th, okay?
July 6th is going to be administrative hearing meeting day.
And you were not able to get a hold of them on Howard Street, the Jacobsons?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to have to send a letter out.
Okay. And the last enforcement is 172 Hemlock.
My recollection on that was they promised us basically back in the midwinter, the engineer that appeared said he was going to be gone for 6 weeks, and then he was going to come back and come up with a plan and speak with us, and since then he seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. So I think we need to call them in also.
Right, he's been working on his property. And we've seen him, I think, put siding or something, I believe. Thought you and I drove by while he was fishing. By the way, a great fisherman he is. So, yeah, we noticed that he is there. There hasn't been anything really appreciable. There's still material that's within the 30-foot, so it's time to have a conversation.
All right. And I see you nice folks waiting. Was there a special hearing or matter that you were here for?
We're here for the report on potential enforcement investigation.
Oh. I don't see that on my agenda.
Under agent's report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I do see that now.
How about the folks in back of you?
They are the tenants from Hollis Road.
Oh. You got to stay here all meeting.
I'm sorry, I forgot you were there. Yep. All right, moving forward, agent's report.
Actually, if I could be allowed to go to my car for a second.
Okay.
I have something.
The certificate of compliance and the other signatures or documents to be signed?
Yeah, what I've got here to be signed
Yep.
is the, well, they're duplicate copies of each. So there's 2 copies of each. This one is the certificate of compliance for the patio on 40 Hemlock Drive that we went to this weekend. This one is some guy named Luck. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him.
He's not here.
A determination of applicability. We've got the other one on 263 Elmwood, the negative determination for the water line. This one is the one on 307 Townsend Harbor Road. The determination there. Is it Townsend Harbor? Yeah.
And
Townsend
they
Harbor.
understood the,
I sent an email out this evening on that.
all right, on the fence.
Yep. And this one's the 105 Hemlock Drive. I finally received the hard copy updated plans.
Great.
So that's the order for that. I just gotta,
Okay.
for the purposes of my report, there was something in my car I gotta bring up.
Any chance on the estimates for the decking, Hollis Road, that Corinne had sent?
That's what we're here for.
Yep.
I didn't even know what the project was about.
Okay. Do you happen to have copies of the quotes? No. Okay.
I gave them, dropped them off, didn't I?
Drops what off?
The quotes for the deck.
Okay, if you drop those off, I don't have them. Did you give them to Peg?
I left them right on the desk.
Okay.
It was in a yellow folder, is that not it?
This is a yellow folder right here. This is yellow folder said deck projects that I found on my desk.
Yeah.
I was assuming that, you know, it was,
I thought I put Hollis Road on there.
I know, I'm not perfect. When I saw this, I figured you wanted it placed on the agenda, so I placed it on the agenda. Anyway, here you go.
Okay, so they are in here?
It should be in there, yeah. What can I say?
Can we stop signing?
No, we'll stop signing. Richard got this. Nope, yeah, I'm passing them. Oh, okay. Just pile them on that side of Matt's.
You got used.
I think you forgot the signature page.
Guess I could do this for Carl. Two of each, yeah, it's the same copy.
Okay. Recently, I've had a few emails sent to the office. One as recently as about a week and a half ago concerning turtle crossings. You know, we have a lot of rare species in town, a lot of turtles that are on the list. The last resident that emailed me, I asked about signs, so promised I would approach commission about signage. This little sign here is actually something I developed back about 10 years ago that I use in the town of Tingsboro. I also started using it in the town of Sterling, and Leominster actually is starting to use it, although they used a different turtle, so I couldn't sue them for copyright infringement. But I'm glad they took the cue anyway. And essentially, it just shows a turtle and the word crossing, and these signs are actually quite effective. They're vinyl, they're easy for DPW to install, and they're actually pretty inexpensive. I don't know if... Okay, I could get 6 of them probably for about $100.
May not be able to do that.
And I'd like to actually go to Voss Signs and explore quotes with them on
Exactly, I don't
these.
think you can.
And actually maybe put a couple of these up in areas where we've been getting a lot of concern.
So pass it on, but Todd can't sign
What do you,
it.
I don't know what you guys.
Is there money
it's
for
okay?
it someplace?
Well, I'll find it somewhere.
Where are we putting them?
Well, I mean, I know I have several streets listed. I don't have the streets on me, but there are several streets I've gotten concerns listed over. Especially like Mass Ave, Lancaster Ave, Northfield Road, Mulpus Road. I get a lot of people saying, hey, there's a lot of turtles crossing there. I'm afraid they're gonna get hit. Or, hey, I just saw, crushed Mutant Ninja Turtle out on Mass Ave. These signs actually are very effective at getting people to slow down. And just we gotta make sure they're in very public spots, because if they're on the really minor side streets, they will get taken down and stolen in people's bedrooms. So I would use them sparingly on spots where it's very publicly traveled. So I just wanted to go, show this to you guys and just go over it with you really brief.
So I had a snapper in my front yard, or my lakeside yard this morning, not this morning, yesterday morning, wandering around looking for a place to dig a hole.
I actually have a friend of mine who, if he sees a snapper out there, it winds up being dinner.
Yeah.
Well, as long as he's eating it.
They're not endangered, so it's perfectly legal.
Right. There's no hunting season either.
No.
I thought Brad was gonna tell us to hit it with a lawnmower.
With a head turtle.
Yeah. One year, we actually were there for the hatching.
Oh, really?
And that was fun.
Have you contacted the DPW as far as hanging the signs?
I can talk to Jack. They're very easy to install. I've worked with DPW, and they take 5 seconds.
Okay.
Does this have a signature page?
Next page.
Were you there for that one?
What? I thought I had it open to the signature page. Next page. I think I was there. What's that address on that one?
21 Mulpus.
What's the date of the hearing?
You weren't there for it.
I wasn't there for it.
He can still sign if it was approved by quorum.
Yeah, but how do I sign something? I didn't see any of the presentations. I didn't see any of the materials.
You don't agree with it, don't sign it.
Well, I'm just saying, how do I legally...
That's fine.
How do I legally do that? I wasn't
You don't
present.
have to sign
I'm not
it.
familiar with it. Wrong Mulpus.
Well, cross it off.
You don't have to sign it, Jack.
I will hand
Okay,
it back
take
to
it
him.
back to me. Because honestly,
Cross it off and initial.
it just seems like I shouldn't be able to sign it if I wasn't there and I didn't review it, just because I'm a sitting member.
I might have been out that day, too.
No, Mulpus, it was you, myself, Ken, and Tom Bertram.
What was it?
Yeah, I don't believe...
That was the deck in the 30-foot and the shed in the 30.
Yeah, placement of deck and shed within buffer zone, no touch zones. Yeah, I didn't see any of it. I mean, I'd be okay if I voted
You
against it.
weren't
I would-
there, yeah.
If I wasn't there, I would, and I voted, even if I voted against it, I would still sign it. But if I'm not there and I'm not familiar with it, how do you sign it? I just don't want to go to jail.
Keep them together. Is that the other one?
Yeah. That's a good idea. Which one?
All right, so we had the Turtle Crossing issue. Report on potential enforcement investigation.
Well, I've been receiving pictures of work on, why is the name, what's the name of your condo group again?
Woodlands.
Woodlands, thank you. I keep wanting to say Wildwood, I don't know why. On the Woodlands, doing some work within the 30-foot no-touch zone. I haven't had a chance to investigate it. I know I did receive a phone message today from someone looking to contact me about it from the association. I just have been so busy with the prep time for this meeting, I didn't have a chance to return much for phone calls today, so I'll wind up calling that person tomorrow to talk some more. I mean, I've received photos, but I have to walk the site.
Okay.
That's about it, really.
Okay.
In my communications that I've shared with you.
Yes.
Clearly, this association is eager to understand with regard to what are the requirements to comply
Well,
with them.
that's what I would review on the sidewalk, what the
And so,
requirements are.
I think this is much a training and understanding exercise. Todd and I did have a chance to go and take a ride and do some fishing. And we clearly, I think, Todd, if the observations were that there's some creep going on, and...
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
There's an area of
there's
worthy of investigation.
It's an area worthy of investigation. From what I saw in the photos, I didn't see anything too monumentally earth-shattering, just enough to maybe go into education mode.
There's an education, no, there's more than just education, though. There really, truly is some areas where it looks like there would be a need for revegetation.
Well, that would be part of the education mode. If I went into enforcement mode, it'd be the paperwork flying everywhere.
Yeah, and so I think we can create friendly agreements that we would make the following kinds of modifications.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you Tish?
Sandra.
Sandra, hi, Sandra. Sandra called.
I called you yesterday. I think it was.
Thank you.
Sandra Hobby.
Was it? Yes, okay, I remember the name, yes.
104 Royal Fern Drive, yep,
Yeah.
and I am the
Nice to meet
chair
you.
of trustees.
Yeah.
Yes. So I came tonight to, because I figured exactly that, Matt. I work for the town of Westford, so I know how busy our Conservation Commission and agents are. And I figured this would be the easiest way to try to, at least start the conversation.
Westford?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, that's Carol.
yes.
Yep.
So we have forwarded the association all the appropriate rules and regulations affecting their particular area, affecting the 30, 50, and 100-foot zone. So I think that the next step is for us to have Matt go over, take a look, and we can all sit down at a table and say what makes sense. And I think that's the friendly, right way to do it,
I'm curious about the.
Actually, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's a great approach.
Yeah.
Mark that day in history.
We agree with that.
Jack and I, we're just two old curmudgeons that just like to have a good argument. That's just the way we get along.
By the way, he's getting married pretty soon, so be nice to him. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I am a little on the anxious side because the wedding's 3 weeks away.
Yeah. So he's getting married.
So at this point,
As far as the complaint goes, is that something that we could get a copy of so I can see what the concern is? Or?
Well, when we talk, when you and I talk, we can go over that stuff and.
Right. And essentially, the complaints take multiple forms. We can get a phone call saying you need to come and look at this area. We treat that with the same as if somebody had written us a dissertation with 1,400 pages. It's our requirement to essentially investigate, and it's as well as our requirement to, if we observe something that's clearly, we bring the agents in and see whether or not it's a violation and how can we fix it. It's not about.
and I think it's fair to say that 2 of the members have seen the area, and it has drawn concern. So there's clearly something going on that we just want to take another look at to see exactly how far it has gone beyond what was allowed.
Mr. Chairman.
And without seeing it and having the agent give us a report on it, and for the benefit of those that don't live on the lake and haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
Okay.
Okay?
Matt, you have my number and.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
When they do have the meeting, Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for a member of the board to sit in with our agent to have the discussion with a...
Certainly would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honest, I mean, it's probably better to do it in a meeting with everybody.
I mean, usually what I do with the discussions is the preparatory work and what the potentials could be and reviews of the laws, but if a commissioner wants to join me on that, then there's one thing I always welcome.
Yeah, but after the investigation, of course, a representative from the Woodlands would be invited in, and we can go over what Matt has found and how to move forward, if need be. So, okay? And Matt does have your contact information,
Yes,
so.
yeah.
Yes, sir?
So Matt will...
Name and address, sir?
Bob Pease, 11 Wintergreen Court.
Thank you.
So Matt will contact us and we'll set up a time for him to come and visit.
Yes. Yep.
Walk the property.
Yep. And if it's all right with you, he'll just see if there's any members that want to go with him.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So just let us know of the time and date, Matt.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll give a commission-wide email.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Answer your questions?
Very good.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
future DPW paving projects. Mr. Rodakins is gonna be providing me with a list of roads that are just not gonna be widened, but milled and paved. And what I'm gonna do is take those streets and actually do a town-wide determination. Because the projects he's gonna give me are gonna be at least over the next year and a half that he's looking to mill and pave, like we're doing on Lancaster Ave right now. And, I think that's a good approach. I'd also like to eventually do that with the lake associations, to have a list of the established sandy beaches noted on a database, and then have a single request for determination done by each lake association on all those people on the list. All those people on the list would then qualify that all they would have to do is go to the association and say, I'm going to add sand to my beach. And then the association would then notify us, basically in compliance with the determination ruling that such and such address is going to put sand on their beach.
We could draft something, let's draft something together and talk about that, because
I think, well, the thing is that it would save every single applicant from having to come in, us having to chase people to come in, and it would save everybody money because it's one application as opposed to, 100.
Yeah.
And that'll give us a historical listing of the beaches that are
Bingo.
currently on the lake.
Exactly.
Moving forward.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also, the beach owners then can get educated on the proper way to add the beach and maintain the beach and what's allowable and what's not allowable.
Exactly.
No, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea. And if we could have a discussion around where we would like to take future sand being added to the beaches, and at least guidelines around those as well.
All right. And moving forward, do we have any other notices or communications, Matt?
Did you guys want to speak on anything, or are we all set with them?
I was kind of leaving that for public comment.
No, I have nothing else.
Okay.
Numbers?
Tom Senior Bertram had emailed the office about a lot on Holman Street going down towards the parking lot on the lane. We have a current forestry plan for Darren Massey's property across the street. And apparently they have cleared a small turnaround area on the Lane property side.
Really?
It is a piece of property that Darren Massey owns. So I had gone out on site, and it looks like probably a 40 by 80 spot that they've cleared for helping the access in off of the street for the tree clearing on the other side that they have permitted. And I had forwarded pictures I went down just today, forwarded pictures off to Matt, and he can put them up on the cloud, or anybody who wants to drive down, take a quick look. So it didn't look like any of the work was going on that side, just made themselves a landing and a spot to turn around or to park one of the logging trucks as they're waiting to load them up.
Yeah, how close to the wetland, Rich?
It was all in the upland.
Oh.
Yeah, I did walk around the site, and there was no wetlands around the area where they had cleared.
So this doesn't really affect us at all?
Nope, just to bring it to light, because there was a note sent to the
Okay.
commission, and I did go out to take a look at it, so. And I did inform Mr. Bertram of that. All right, any other notices? All right, so public comment. Corinne, if you want to come up quick? Sorry about the delay.
It's all right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll recuse myself from the discussion.
Okay.
Joe, just over here, or?
Actually, if we could probably
I'll grab a chair.
toss that easel out of the way. So we're all familiar with the house up on Hollis Road? So off in the back, you're looking to put a deck off on the back? And if you just kind of explain quick what we're looking for.
So I know that you guys had said, coming off the back slider, there's those 3, I guess you could call them steps?
Treacherous stairs.
So you,
Treacherous.
somebody had suggested putting a deck on, so I went and had a couple quotes done. We kind of discussed with a couple people what should be done out back.
Okay.
So you have to, because of the slider, there's also an exterior door from the garage right there, so it's a small 4-foot landing. And then, what was the square footage on the deck? excuse me, it's a 6-foot landing and then a 12 by 12 deck off that.
Okay, so the landing's for the door from the garage?
Yeah, it creates the
Right, 'cause
space for
it's-
that door, so, and then a wider deck
Opens the
beyond
slider
that.
to there, yeah.
It would be low enough that most of it would need a railing. It would just open up into the backyard with with 2 steps.
Okay.
And we looked into vinyl decking so that it would be low maintenance and last the longest.
Yep.
We got 2 quotes.
Yeah.
What do we have for the quotes?
So the quotes, I went with Jared Crowley, lives in Lunenburg, does a lot of work in Lunenburg, and I went to Lowe's.
Okay.
So Jared had come about 7,500 to 8,000, and then Lowe's was 10,530. Lowe's does expect everything all up front. You have to pay for all of it. If you want to look at it, it includes like some inspections and stuff like that. I don't know if you can take a look at that.
Quick question I had on Jared Crowley, is he a professional?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yep,
he
he's
would be
licensed. Yeah, absolutely, yep.
Because that would just require just an insurance.
Yep, he has that too.
Okay. Question is, are you doing the building yourself?
Nope.
No. Okay. The other
We can do
question.
lots of things, not
Yeah,
not my bad.
not that, which is okay. It's okay. The other, if I, and not to delay this at all, but I've had a chance to shop material around. In fact, I built my house, I shopped it around, and I discovered that our local supplier, Mackey's, generally beats most folks if you sit down and talk to them a little
Yeah.
bit.
Oh, like with
With John.
actually building the deck?
Oh, this is just for the just not materials, it's just labor?
No, this is installation, yes.
The local price was installed for 10.5, and then they have a local contractor.
For 8.
That's
So there'd be total of 18,000?
Quotes are inclusive of all materials.
It's inclusive
Yes,
of labor
yeah.
and materials.
Okay.
So we have 10.5, we have
8,000.
8,000, say,
8,000.
yeah.
And I could, just, I'll tell you, it seems like Mackey's always won, and even in my last
But they don't
project.
do install.
Well, they're tied into contractors as well.
So Jared could probably go there.
Yeah, and
Like
get a
if he, because he's a,
Yeah, have them go to John and say, look, give me a
I'm gonna
deal.
have to check. I
Yeah.
think if it's under 25,000, you only need 3 quotes.
We
Yeah.
need a third.
And I think Peg would probably know most of the answers to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, I mean, it's definitely an improvement that we had asked for.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any problem with that. It's just,
I'd probably just go to, follow Jack's suggestion, considering the local, go to Mackey, see what.
I can even go to them tomorrow and show them just show them the plan that we have.
the installation part of it, though.
Yeah, but they might be
They
able,
tied into all sorts, they make,
Yeah, have an
he
install.
might have a contractor that he can call and say, hey, give me a quote on doing this, and,
Yeah.
I'll supply the labor, and
Can you have the quotes broken down in terms of a lump sum for installation versus materials?
yeah, break it out.
Certainly can ask him to do it that way.
No, he didn't. It was just, yeah.
That way you get a little apples to apples comparison
Yeah.
in terms of what the materials cost
So like an
are.
itemized, yeah.
Exactly, an itemized
Or
quote
have a
would be
spec for the
fantastic.
deck and
Right.
they all have to quote the same. I mean, honestly, if you use.
It's all the same spec. They both use the same drawing, so.
Okay,
Okay.
and the same materials.
Yep.
Okay.
Does our bank account handle it right now?
That was the next question.
I'll have to ask Peg.
Okay.
Yeah.
We haven't put in for anything recently. Nothing of this magnitude, especially.
Yeah, so we just have a couple quick, I mean, it's definitely something we had asked for, so let's just get the procedure down, and we can, Matt or I or Peggy will contact you from the office
Okay,
tomorrow, because Matt's in there.
okay. And do you want me to get a third quote?
Let's see what we need.
Oh,
We
okay.
may
Oh,
not.
all right.
We may, she's.
Do you guys want to keep
she
these?
is
Because I
on
have
loan
copies at home.
10 hours a week from the accounting office, so.
Oh, right, yes, I think I spoke with her before.
Yes,
Yep.
as far as financing, she has a far greater knowledge than we do.
Okay.
so.
And then you guys will approve it?
Then we'll
Or-
just approve it on the 6th and go
Okay.
forward.
Okay,
Yep.
great, awesome.
All right.
Anything
Is
else?
there anything else on the property? or
Corinne and
questions?
Dan?
No? Good work, thank you.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
Sorry, we made you wait.
No problem.
Send Kenny back in unless he's run. All right, any other public comment from the commission?
Yeah, we've got committee reports? Is that what we're doing?
Yep, we can do that.
We can do that. Okay, I can do 2 things. First, the stormwater updates. Okay, they had a mosquito control effort going on where they're essentially going around picking up tires. Maybe so that Phyllis presented that. We're also having a problem in terms of a quorum and getting enough people to show up in order to maintain the quorum. So we've actually making a suggestion to the selectmen that we move from 7 members down to 5. Selectmen, DPW, Planning, Conservation, and a citizen. And so that would be where we're seeking approval to go that, and as well as that should work. We're asking that if Adam might become an alternate voting member. We're not sure. We're going to try and find that out. We gave Ed Himlin the okay for a contracted services for $10,000 to help us work our way through the whole stormwater piece. And I believe Phyllis was taking that to the selectmen to receive approval.
He's worth every penny.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, we're convinced of that. Also, we're trying to, with this $40,000 sitting in the budget for this year, and we're kind of committed to it. We don't want to lose it, so we're going through an effort to try and encumber the $40,000 with 10 going to Ed Hillman, essentially 4 to the Mass Watershed, Mass Water, yeah.
The coalition?
Coalition, yeah, yeah. And then we're looking to try and, Jack says he thinks he can sequester the other 26 so that we can preserve the 40,000 we didn't spend this year moving into next, as well as what we have next year, because we anticipate the expenditures are going to start picking up nicely. And we had a good conversation with regard to how can we assure that the retention ponds are being maintained. And as part of the planning board has agreed to start looking at that on a longer term basis versus just letting it prove in the town and hopefully somebody comes along.
If I could interject here, I know one thing I did offer to Adam recently was that seeing as there is mutual interest in, stormwater management, and in the past I have done for Marion stormwater enforcement on like the Walmart Plaza. The last, probably a few years ago, you guys probably noticed Walmart all of a sudden starting to cut all the trees down in the detention basin and cleaning it out, because I went up there and barked at them with Marion's authority at the time. And I told Adam that, I suggested that maybe we should do a list of those non-town owned structures and start inspecting them, one by one, essentially. I would inspect them for the town, considering half of them wind up running in Conservation Commission jurisdiction anyway. And if we do general stormwater permitting over and above what the planning board's doing, Conservation might be involved in that as well anyway. So I'm going to be involved one way or the other.
Yeah, you would be. Yes, would be.
That was my suggestion on that.
Okay.
I'm experienced in doing it. I do it all the time regularly anyway.
Are you volunteering or something?
Well, no, I'm the permitting authority. In Tingsboro, for example, I'm the permitting authority for stormwater.
Perfect, that's good.
Whereas here it's planning board, there it's both myself and conservation. It's like a dual type of role. And so I have experience in making sure that these things are cleaned out.
Yeah. We're still trying to figure out who's going to sign what and what makes sense, and we're just coming along and we're realizing that people like Ed Himlin, who have been down this track a number of times, can help us tremendously. So Tingsboro is way ahead of us. Okay, the other piece that
well, that's because we used Ed Himlin.
Is that you used Ed?
Yeah, I paid him 7.
Yeah, there we go.
Talk him down.
Oh God, well it's 10,000 retainer. It's more fun.
Well, you're probably doing a lot more intensive work than we needed done at the time, but he was a great help to us.
Yeah. Okay, the other thing that you guys saddled me with was that I made the comment that perhaps we could help, and here we go, here's the latest revision. I don't know if you had a chance to see this, but with regard to establishing a clear expectation around our erosion barriers versus walls. And so I attempted to create a document that we could either treat as an addendum to our wetlands regulations and stick it in the addendum section, or somehow create some sort of attachment where this becomes a document that's saying, okay, we've just told you can put in an erosion barrier. This is what it should look like. And created some general specifications around it, tried to provide them with some examples, as well as a process by which they don't have to go crazy, and they just give us a call, Matt. Similar to the process that you were just describing, actually, with regard to sand on the beach. And then some Q&A. So I would like to leave this with you, and if we could have some time for the next meeting after all those hearings, that we could go through and determine whether or not this needs to be added to, this thing needs to be changed. But again, it's an attempt to essentially provide those folks who really don't, they read it and they go, what does this really mean? Here it is. You know what? It's big boulders sitting there creating a wonderful habitat. Don't run them 90 degrees because now it's a wall.
Yeah, no, that's actually, we don't even have to add that as an addendum at this point. We could just use it as a recommendation.
Yeah, and so we want to
order of conditions or approve an RDA.
Yeah, so we want to codify it somehow, and make this an official document, because we will make changes, I'm sure, as we discuss, as we go along. And that way, everybody will be real clear when they leave. Yep. And maybe perhaps we even reference in our order of conditions this addendum number or this document number, so that we now have a record of expectation.
They're just a performance standard.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no change to our regulations.
There is
a performance standard on basic bank maintenance.
Yeah, the process might be it's not spelled out. This is where we are spelling something out there that makes it, by the way, I'm proposing that there's no fees, there's no charges, it just makes it easy. Give us a call, send us some pictures very quickly.
Well, that would be a change. If we came up with a performance standard of the work being performed, to change the fees would be we'd have to have 2 public hearings and change our regulations.
Yeah, I don't know if right now, the way we're sharing, that allows you to actually do maintenance without having to create a hearing. I don't believe there is. I thought, Matt, doesn't the lake, our entire lake, has an approval to do erosion protection?
Yeah, that's an order of conditions and part of their lake management plan.
Yeah.
Those were specific techniques.
Private property, right. So they've applied for it as a single private property. Okay. So that could be a change, Rich.
I think we also need on your detail, a thickness requirement or a limit.
Yeah. On the size of the boulders?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Thickness of how wide that, they could take that out you could get essentially a very large wedge of stone in there.
Why don't we, at this point, just take and we can read through it, make comments on it, and then at the next hearing, we can try to spend 10 minutes and just update it a a bit. Like I said,
comments to Matt? Prior to the next meeting?
We really should just be bringing them to the meeting.
Okay.
And then we can discuss them and hand add them in and then write it out from there.
So that would also mean that if we are now talking about affecting our regs, then we need to advertise it somehow. Remember, we have to start that
Let's write it down first and see if it's just a performance standard on work that we would be.
You don't want me to take the comments beforehand? I could always take them and post them on a cloud.
I'm concerned that if we start discussing this amongst ourselves outside of a public hearing, we would be in violation of the open meeting law.
No, it's nothing, just giving them to Matt.
But then it still goes back to the cloud. People read them, make more discussion, make more comments on it. So
Well, he's got a point.
yeah, it really has to be done. We can certainly send everything to Matt, and Matt can have it in the packet, but that's the one-way communication. There's no more discussion at that point, so.
Right. So this is good because it allows us to visibly demonstrate that we're following the process that we had shared with the community. This is what we're going to do whenever we make changes to our regs.
Yep. No, this wouldn't, again, it's not a change to the regs, but come up with a performance standard on when we request work to be done. This is how we want it done. That way we don't have a 338 Sunset Lane coming up with, what you have here. That's what we told them to do, but instead we got a nice block
And
wall.
we got a wall like
Yeah, we
that,
got
but
nice
it's
block
tightly
walls.
packed too,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So this will help
It's a better
clarify.
description, if nothing else, of the work that we are allowing, so.
So the next question is, as we move along on this one, it makes sense to start noodling around another piece, whether it's sand in the beach piece that you'd spoken about, Matt, in terms of we go down that direction. Maybe we can start pushing stuff around that direction, because can you mow vegetation? You know?
I think mowing vegetation is spelled pretty clearly in the
It says
bylaw.
maintain.
You can maintain.
Yeah, so someone, if they've got a pile of low blueberry bushes, they can go and mow it?
No.
No, that's referring to landscaped and lawn
And that-
areas.
that's what I'm saying, though, is we clarify what that means. You know, does it grass? You can do fescue, you can mow the grass, but you can't mow the bushes, that kind of a thing. Just help
Maintain
clarify.
the existence of the plant material that's there.
Yeah.
Blueberries aren't meant to be mowed, therefore mowing blueberries would not be allowed.
Right.
Mowing grass is allowed.
But there's,
trimming the blueberry bushes to under
well,
6
tree
feet.
trimming.
To a happy height.
Yeah, tree trimming is another question that keeps coming up. Yeah.
But, and it does list in there minor limb pruning.
Right.
Not taking every limb from the ground up 30 feet to improve your view straight out.
Right.
You have a damaged limb, you take the damaged limb off, but
Now, help me.
that's spelt in there.
Yeah, it's, there's no specification with the number of inches or anything like that. That's,
No.
it's not. And Matt, honestly, when you and I were talking, I said, how far can they trim up? And you were saying they always have to leave at least 30% of the crown of the tree intact. And so, okay, that means if you've got a 5-foot tree, you can take a couple small branches.
Well, that's not just for the tree, that's for like if they're doing an area of branches and they're doing what's
Yeah.
called vista pruning.
Vista pruning, so.
Yeah, that would be in a wooded section.
Yeah, and we wanted, what I'm suggesting is we come up with some sort of specification around what can
Well, I
you-
mean, we got to be careful about over-regulating and over-compensating for our regulations. A lot of this is common sense. If you're going to go up and cut every branch till all you have left is a matchstick, that's a violation, because you've killed the tree, and you're setting it up so that you can do a violation. The other thing is, you got to keep in mind, if, you know, say Brad owns a 20-acre wooded lot, and there's wetlands there, and he wants to go in and take like 8 cord of wood out, as long as he leaves some type of a canopy in that wooded lot, he can go in without a filing. It's not applicable under our bylaw, it's not applicable under state law, because it's part of the agricultural definition.
Right, I so understand that, but I
But
can.
what I'm saying is, that's core, but if somebody goes in and starts, you know, clipping a tree up to the point where it's gonna die, I mean, that's an obvious violation.
Is that where the 30%, you said you take, if you don't-
I usually use 30% as a guide on just about everything.
Yeah. So, and maybe we provide that with some guidance. I'm just thinking that there is confusion, and I've had, you wouldn't believe the number of people that say, Jack, how far can I trim up my tree? And I said, well, I can tell you what Matt said, and this was recently. He said, up to 30%, but I get the feeling there's more to it, and call them, you know, when you urge calling. And I know that there've been properties that have trimmed up, and possibly because they read the regulations, said, oh, I guess I can take a 6-inch branch off.
Well, you see, usually when I do that, the way I approach it is if a resident comes up to me like that, and I go down and they show me a tree, and they say, how much can I, you know, trim branches up to? My response to that is, how much do you want to trim the branches up to? I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to let them tell me where they want to go. And then if it's too much for me, I say, no, you really can't do that, because that's more like doing tree cutting by increments. So.
And the other thing to keep in mind too, is you're taking branches out, you are changing the ecosystem at that level.
Sure are.
And all the plants below it. So
Right.
if you're taking out branches that are going to affect the plant material underneath that, that would be a violation. Because
Burn them
again,
out and
you're.
stimulate something else, yeah.
Because again, you're changing the
Right.
plant, the vegetation.
I just don't want to run into a branch when I'm driving my tractor around.
I think that's safe. I think that's
Yeah, I mean,
there is a lot of common
that's
sense.
common
If somebody
sense.
goes through and takes out the branches so that they can see everything and leave a matchstick, that is clearly not the spirit of the
Yeah.
zone.
So I guess we're just trying to drive a little further clarification, helping people, and if there's any question, give us a call. And so I'll start pushing around sand, because that's another question that comes up. I have that question. And no, by the way, what's that structure thing? the big debate within 50 feet, what is a loosely piled, I'll put a couple together.
Again, I mean, a lot of it's just common sense.
Yeah.
All right, do we have any other public comment from the commission? Yes?
Goodbye.
Certainly thank you for your service over the last 2 years. You certainly will be missed.
Yeah.
You were definitely a voice of reason. And sometimes harried conversations.
Yeah. But, Brad, I sincerely appreciate you guys jumping in, because we were in tough shape. And I know that wasn't your first ambition to be on this, but you jumped in and helped because you knew you could and you would do a good job.
Yeah.
And honestly, Brad, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, it just, not my favorite thing to do.
I know, it's hard for you. It's hard for you.
Yeah.
And,
Well, just think of it this way, you can watch us every other Wednesday night now.
No, I don't get this channel.
Oh, you don't?
No, I live in Lunenburg, but I get the Leominster public
You're on the line.
access.
You're on that funky line right there.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong
side of the...
Wrong side of the
I
utility
think 3
line.
days later, you'll be able to watch us on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna run right out and do that.
All right, do we have any other public comment?
Oh, I might note that we do have a member opening as a result.
We do.
And Mr. Bob, if I might note, has actually put an application in. And I don't think we can say anything more yet until we get them all in, but thank you, Bob. Thank you very much.
And I did contact the 3 other people that we had talent bank forms on.
Excellent.
And Matt, have any of them contacted the office?
Nope.
I did make a personal call and asked them to call if they were at all interested. So we do have a vacancy starting on July 6th. There will only be 6 members, and I know the selectmen brought that up too.
Yeah.
They did, they actually.
Last night.
129 Pleasant Street. They also bring it the fact that you had an associate member opening as well?
No.
No? Okay.
Well,
But they said, they went through them all.
We can, from time to time, bring associate members on if there is somebody that's interested. But associate members for the Conservation Commission are not, say, similar to the Zoning Board of Appeals, where you can have more members than what is listed. The Wetlands Protection Act lists 7 members, so we can only have 7 voting members. Associate members are not allowed to vote in the absence of one of the 7 members. So it would be strictly an informational member.
But we could ask them to comment, couldn't we?
Oh, they certainly could comment, but
Yeah.
they're just
And
not
they
allowed to
could go
vote.
on sidewalks.
As an associate member, you could you sit at the table?
Yeah, you just can't vote.
Okay.
All right. At
We all
this
set?
point, if we don't have any other comments, I'll accept a motion to close.
So moved.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye. Yay, Brad.